Live from the Motor City. It is the Elite 8 WCBN Sports. Thrilled to be bringing you live coverage of March Madness. My name is Kelin, Flynn, Neal, Sinha alongside me today. Neal could not be more excited to be here at Little Caesars Arena, downtown Detroit. Fantastic venue for some primetime men's hoops.
Yeah, I mean, you could not, just as you said, Kelin, you said it perfectly. You could not ask for a better atmosphere, two better teams, to be honest. I mean, we're getting the two best teams, really, of the Midwest region. You know, two of the best 1 and 2 seeds of this whole NCAA tournament. Two teams that have played each other quite a lot. As of recently, in the past few seasons, it's the fourth meeting, under Rick Barnes at Tennessee between the Tennessee Volunteers and the Purdue Boilermakers. All three of the previous games were decided by 5 or fewer points. Expect a very close one, a grinded-out game. The spread was set at 3.5 for Purdue. It's going to be a tough one, and it's going to be a fun one, no doubt.
Absolutely. Both of these two teams winning on Friday here in the D. Purdue in that early game against Gonzaga. It was a really close game in the first half, but in the second half, the Boilermakers ran away with it, fueled by some stellar three-point shooting and obviously Zach Edey. Neal, let's touch on that game real quick, recap how Purdue got here.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all been led by Zach Edey. I mean, this guy is leading the country in points per game at 24.4. He's second in the country in rebounds per game at 12.1. I mean, the offense all starts with Zach Edey. He had 27 points against Gonzaga, 14 rebounds as well as an assist. He's been great, but you know what? Purdue, the way that they play is that the offense is fed through him, through Edey, but then they spread him out outside. They have great spacing with guys like Lance Jones, guys like Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, Mason Gillis, who's shooting 48% from three on the year.
And when Purdue is knocking down shots from the outside, they're nearly impossible to take down. Obviously, Zach Edey, the heavy favorite to repeat as National Player of the Year, tremendous throughout the tournament so far. Now let's touch on Tennessee. Tennessee, in a dogfight against Creighton, came out on top. No Santiago Vescovi in the last game against Creighton. He is expected to give it a go today. Did not play on Friday. He had the flu, said he was dealing with chills and soreness throughout the day. Wanted to be there with his guys, but ultimately could not make it. Talked about the confidence he has in his teammates to go out there and execute. He is reported to be available today.
He is reported to be available, just as you mentioned, though, will not be starting. And just 2 days ago, I mean, not starting in that game against Creighton, snapped a 52-game starting streak for Santiago Vescovi. He's been a mainstay in the starting 5 for Rick Barnes. And so going to be very important to see if he plays, how many minutes he does get. You know, playing with the flu, you got to expect he's going to be pretty tired. But just as you mentioned, Tennessee was in a tough game with Creighton. That score might not have fully indicated it, as the Volunteers won by 7. But they needed that 18-0 run in the middle of the second half of that game to really put away the Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays had a late surge. It all starts for Tennessee with Dalton Connect, the All-American on this season. He's where this team is led, frankly, through on offense, averaging 21 a game. Zakai Ziegler is going to be huge. The kid is simply a pest on defense. He's so fast, he's so agile, and he just shuts down opposing guards.
And we were enamored with his work against Stephen Ashworth, a former teammate of Dalton Connect's, against Creighton. He was all up in his grill the entire time. Really struggled, did Ashworth, to get much going, especially offensively. Ziegler being a defensive pest. And we've seen throughout the season, the recipe for success against Purdue tends to be, can you heat up those guards, Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, Zakai Ziegler? That's going to be his task today.
It certainly will be. And I think, you know, Braden Smith is such a good playmaker. He's such an unheralded player, really, for Purdue on the season, averaging 12 a game, but he averages 7 assists. And Kelin, I mean, 15 assists by Braden Smith in the game against Gonzaga. He's unbelievable in the way that he sets up this offense. And so for Tennessee and Ziegler, if they can just slow him down, if they can gain an extra possession or two off of steals, that will help them tremendously. They have the advantage over the Boilermaker in steals per games, averaging around 2 more per game at 7.8 per for Tennessee. That's going to be something to watch out for sure.
Well, we'll leave you for just a moment and give you the player introductions, and we'll be right back for tip-off. Both teams announcing the starting lineups. We're just about ready to get underway here from the Motor City.
And I mean, it is so loud in here, Kelin. I tell you what, there's a decent amount of Tennessee orange here in Little Caesars Arena, but the Purdue fans are certainly the overwhelming favorite here and taking up most of the seats, and they are certainly louder. My goodness, that applause for Zach Edey was something to be heard.
Starting lineups for both teams. 5 on the floor for the Boilermakers. The guards, the 2 sophomores, Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer. Lance Jones at the 3. And then the forwards, Trey Kaufman-Wren and the big fella, Zach Edey. Manning the middle for Purdue. For Tennessee, it's Jonas Adu, Dalton Connect, Zakai Ziegler, Jemai Mashak, and Josiah Jordan James. Adu wins the tip, Mashak corrals it, and we're underway. Ziegler receives a screen early from James. James dishes it over to Mashak. Mashak to Ziegler, top of the key 3, lines it up, leaves it short. Ziegler tracks down his own miss on the far side wing, guarded by Jones into the lane, avoids Edey, tips it back out, and Adu airballs. Edey might have gotten a piece of it. It's Braden Smith now at the March Madness logo. He's harassed by Dalton Connect. Receives a screen from Edey. Smith lines up a 3. He can't hit it. Offensive rebound for Zach Edey. Purdue swings it around, now into Edey. Near side block, going to work on Adu. Edey, left hooks up and in.
And that's going to be there all day for Zach Edey. Expect a lot of perimeter shots as well for Purdue and Tennessee.
Jones has it over to Mashack now. Mashack, top of the key for Ziegler. 19 minutes, 2-0 Boilermakers. Connect, pulls up from the elbow. That's pure. Dalton Connect gets on the scoreboard for Tennessee. Braden Smith picked up by Ziegler at midcourt. Lance Jones, far side wing, now into Edey, far side block. Edey going to work on Adu. Same spot. This time can't hit. Rebound goes to Jonas Adu of Tennessee. Zakai Ziegler taking it up the near side rail. Connect. Receives a screen. Working to the elbow. Had nowhere to go with it. Picks up the loose ball. And Tennessee will work it over to Ziegler on the left side. Ziegler receives a screen. Heading toward the baseline. Pocket pass to Adu. Adu's jumper bounces off and is hauled in by Zach Edey. We've got a whistle. That's a foul on Jemai Mashack of Tennessee, 90 feet away from the cup.
And I couldn't even hear the whistle right there. It's so loud in here in favor of the Purdue fans, and they love their big man who is likely going to win the Naismith Player of the Year for the second straight year. Keep in mind for Tennessee, Dalton Connect is also one of the 4 finalists for that same award.
Some three-quarter court pressure from Purdue, or excuse me, from Tennessee. Smith picked up right as he crosses the timeline by Ziegler. Receives a screen from Trey Kaufman-Wren. Another one from Edey. Floats it upstairs for the big fella, and he dunks it home. Zach Edey gives Purdue a 2-point lead on the two-handed flush. Zakai Ziegler with it, picked up by Lance Jones. Makes his way going right to left, now into Adu, back to Ziegler. Ziegler along the baseline, crosses over. Mashack, he'll take a 3 from the right wing, too strong. The rebound is picked up by Braden Smith of Purdue. 17-30, Tennessee down 2, 4-2 in favor of the Boilermakers. Down the lane, Braden Smith, a little lefty finger roll. That's too easy for the sophomore guard.
And way to keep his head up. Kept his head up the whole way, trying to find Edey eventually, but then the lane was wide open.
Connect, triple teamed by 3 white Purdue jerseys. Tennessee in their orange jerseys today. Connect down the lane. Edey affected the shot. James lines up a 3 from the left wing. That's good.
And he's been a real big difference maker, Josiah Jordan James, for the Volunteers this season. Stepping into that starting role, such a good three-point shooter as he showed right there.
Josiah Jordan James makes it a 1-point game in favor of Purdue. And that's a foul on Jonas Adu. He hedged out hard on Braden Smith and picks up his first personal.
Yeah, and I don't mind the aggressiveness. I think both of these teams, Kelin, certainly feeling the atmosphere, the shot to go to the Final Four. A lot of quick possessions early here, a lot of nervousness that you can tell. Adu right there hedging hard, as you mentioned. Looked like he almost got the ball on the kick, but nonetheless it was called.
Tobe Awaka in for Adu for Tennessee. Ziegler defending Smith. Smith crossover. Gets Connect in the air and draws the foul. Elbow pull-up. And Braden Smith heads to the stripe for 2.
And something to watch out for Tennessee now. That's 3 team fouls in just 3.5 minutes of play. It's early, there's no doubt about it. And thankfully for the Volunteers, it's on all 3 different players. But you got to worry about any of these guys picking up a second here in this first half.
14 points, 15 assists from Braden Smith against Gonzaga on Friday. First free throw is up and in. The Westfield, Indiana native playing for Purdue, looking to take them to their first Final Four since 1980. Second free throw on the way. String music. 8-5, Boilermaker lead. 16:30 to go here in the first half of play. You're tuned into WCBN Sports coverage of the Elite Eight from Detroit. Connect, elbow, pull up, tough shot. He got it.
Man, my goodness, Braden Smith was just up in his grill all over that shot, but Connect just rises higher.
Tough shot making from Dalton Connect. 8-7, Boilermaker lead. In to the short corner, Kaufman-Wren. Top of the key 3 now for Lance Jones. Can't hit it. Rebound picked up by Ziegler. Ziegler to the middle of the floor. Mashack down the lane. He's fouled on the way up by Smith.
Yeah, and Braden Smith thought he got ball there. Of course, Mashak's going to take that. Tennessee's going to head to the line with a chance to take the lead early here. But some very quick transition for Tennessee. This is how they run their offense. They're very fast. They get out in space, and they love to run.
Jemai Mashak, just over 70% free throw shooter on the season. He'll get 2 here. First is on the way and through. Tie ball game, 8-8. Just over 16 minutes to go in the first half.
And I just think Adu and Mashak are going to be such important keys to this game when having to deal with Zach Edey.
Santiago Vescovi heads over to the scorer's table to check in for Mashak, who hits the second free throw, giving Tennessee their first lead of the game. And Vescovi receives a standing ovation from the orange and white crowd here in Detroit.
Yeah, he started 52 of the last 54 games for Tennessee. His first 2 ever that he's missed over the last 2 seasons.
Smith gets it to Fletcher Lawyer, now to Lance Jones, who goes left to right. Jones gets it into Kaufman-Renn, near side block. Renn going to work on Vescovi. He goes up strong and finishes. Trey Kaufman-Renn with the and one.
Man, that is tough, and there's going to be some gritty players down low by both teams today. Kaufman, I think he keeps the pivot foot down. The Tennessee fans wanted a call, but that's great footwork from Kaufman-Renn.
And so we'll hit the under 16 media timeout. They're taking a break on CBS. We're going to stay with you. 10-9 Boilermaker lead over Tennessee, pending the free throw from Trey Kaufman-Renn. And Neal, this has been an up and down start to this contest, but everything we could have hoped for through the first 4 minutes.
Yeah, and this is what you can expect to see for the whole game. I mean, when you look at when these 2 teams played each other in Honolulu in the Maui Invitational at the beginning of the year, Purdue won that game just by 4, 71-67, but it was a back and forth game the whole way. Tennessee had a big lead early with a 9-point lead in that game, but eventually was tied at 64 with 2.5 to go and was back and forth. And so expect a very similar thing to happen today. We've mentioned how Rick Barnes' teams have played well against Matt Painter, or in terms of keeping them close, but they've just struggled to come out on top necessarily. Of course, the last big time that these 2 teams played each other in March was in 2019 in that overtime classic in which Purdue won 99-94, led by Carson Edwards over an Admiral Schofield Tennessee squad.
Tennessee looking to get to their first Final Four in program history. First Elite 8 under Rick Barnes. And it's been a magical season for the Volunteers. Lost in the Sweet 16 against Michigan in the round of 32 against Michigan a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and I think, Kelin, these are 2 teams that frankly both have been dealing with a lot of March demons over the last few years in the tournament. I mean, for Purdue, obviously the big one last year with Fairleigh Dickinson, a couple of years ago, or 3 years ago I should say, with North Texas. They have been upset.
St. Peter's as well.
St. Peter's, of course, in the Sweet 16 2 years ago. Very good point. And they've had to deal with some upsets. They've expected to go further in the tournament according to their seeding than they have. And the same thing has been the case for Tennessee, that has been a mainstay, frankly, every year in the tournament at the 2 or 3 seed line. And yet this is only the first year under Rick Barnes that they've made it to the Elite 8. And so, we mentioned the Final Four trends. Tennessee looking for their first ever Final Four. For Purdue, it would be their first in 44 years. So a lot of things are going to be broken. One demon will be slayed, while the other one will remain for whichever squad comes out of here with a loss.
Both teams back on the hardwood. 5 on the floor for the Volunteers. It's Ziegler, Vescovi, Connect, James, and Tobey Awaka. For the Boilermakers, it's Kaufman-Renn shooting 1. The backcourt of Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer. Zach Edey in the middle, and Cameron Heide, the redshirt freshman, is the 5th man for Purdue. Kaufman-Renn's free throw up and swirls the iron, no good. Dalton Connect boards it and will take it down the middle for Tennessee. Gets it to Ziegler. Ziegler will conduct for Tennessee. He's picked up by Heide. In down low to Tobey Awaka. Awaka fades over Edey and hits. Tough bucket from Tobey Owaka, the 6'8" sophomore.
Anytime you're going up that 7'4" frame, I mean, you got to fall away or somehow rise above it. Great shot right there from Owaka.
Smith gets it to Lawyer, top of the key. Lawyer feeds it into Edey. Owaka defending. And it's James on the help who picks up the block. Vescovi up the right side for Tennessee. Receives a screen from Owaka. Connect, lines up a triple. Kaboom! Dalton Connect knocks down his first three.
And how about that? And that's going to be a key to this game. Dalton Connect's going to need a great game. He's already off to a solid 3-for-4 start from the field with 7 points.
Tough shot from Connect. Smith to Lawyer, middle of the floor. Nowhere to go with it. Connect defending. Kaufman-Renn now on the near side wing. Back to Lawyer. They get it to Edey. High post. Edey, 4 on the timer, going to work over Owaka, and he converts.
Rick Barnes furious right there at Santiago Vescovi. They got to provide strong side help on Edey.
Connect loses the handle, picked up by Vescovi. Connect, corner, pocket, got it! Dalton Connect hits 2 consecutive threes. And he is liable to get hot in a hurry at any moment. Braden Smith guarded by Ziegler. Screen from Kaufman-Renn, offensive foul. Moving screen from Trey Kaufman-Renn. Tennessee basketball, they lead 17-12 over Purdue.
And that's 5 straight field goals for the Volunteers. They're on a solid, 6-0 run now, Kelin, for Tennessee. And so this is where we talked about in the Tennessee-Creighton game. Tennessee has the ability to have these kill shots where they go on a 10-0 run plus. Purdue's got to stop the bleeding sometime soon.
Kaufman-Renn checks out. Mason Gillis in for Purdue. Connect has it, coming off a screen. Getting into the lane, pull-up jumper. Dalton Connect can't hit. Smith rebounds the basketball and will take it up the floor for Purdue. Fletcher Lawyer lines up a 3, won't go. And they're going to call a foul on the floor. Edey went up for the offensive rebound. That's going to be on Tennessee. And that's going to be on Owaka. So Rick Barnes, from a coaching perspective, how do you manage the fouls that you're going to pick up trying to guard Zach Edey? We already saw Adu pick one up today. Owaka in the game gets his first.
Yeah, and I mean, he's going to have to be reaching into his bench. He's going to have to be telling these guys to be careful down low because you don't want to lose some of their big men early on in this game.
Lawyer will trigger in from the baseline, throws it up for Edey. Edey able to get it over Owaka. Ziegler pokes the pass away from Braden Smith, who's able to head all the way back to the opposite free throw line to pick it up. 8 on the timer for Purdue. Hard hedge on Smith. Lawyer down the lane, looking for space. Fall away, jumper, won't go. Edey on the follow, can't hit, but he's fouled. James with the contact. And Zach Edey will head to the stripe, the best in the country at getting to the line.
And I just think, the Tennessee fans aren't happy, and they're not going to be happy to see a lot of free throws. But you know what? Purdue is already in the bonus now. That's 6 team fouls on Tennessee, and we were just talking about it. Luckily enough for Rick Barnes, all 6 of those fouls are on 6 different players, so they don't have to worry too much about the foul trouble on individuals, but this can't keep happening.
Edey with 27 and 14 to punch his team's ticket to this game. Knocks home the first. Miles Colvin and Lance Jones check in for Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith. Tennessee with some substitutions as well. Jordan Gainey into the ball game, as well as Jemai Mashak.
And Kelin, we mentioned that they needed to stop the bleeding. And speaking about Purdue, they did it in their own way right there with getting offensive rebounds and just being gritty.
Edey knocks them both down. 3-point Tennessee lead, 17-14, 13 minutes to go in the first half. Ziegler picked up by Lance Jones. A quick crossover into Tobey Owaka. Owaka falls, can't hit. Miles Colvin boards it for Purdue. Jones to Colvin in transition, steps into a 3, won't go. Offensive rebound, Zach Edey. Kick out, corner, pocket, Mason Gillis won't drop. Dalton Connect wipes the glass for the Volunteers. Ziegler will slow it down for Tennessee. Probing into the lane, little floater up, too strong. Rebound Lance Jones.
And he's just so meticulous. Zakai Ziegler is right there, just probing his way. He's conscious with every single movement he makes on offense. Good look right there.
Mason Gillis, far side wing, guarded by Connect. Now into Edey. Owaka defending. They bring two. Mason Gillis, another look at the corner, three, and again can't hit. That's a good look for Purdue. That won't fall.
Dalton Connect got very lucky. Got to know the scouting report. Cannot leave Mason Gillis wide open from the corners.
Zakai Ziegler at the controls for Tennessee. Flips it over to Gainey. Gainey now back to Ziegler, back to Gainey, right slot. Connect coming off a screen, into the lane, kick out. Ziegler, left corner, wide open, leaves it short. Under 12 to go in the half. Lance Jones down the lane, tries to drop it back off for Edey. Edey's big left hand hauls it in. Colvin receives a couple of screens, pulls it back, now top of the key with Gillis. Into Zach Edey down low. Edey doubled, and he's blocked from behind by Owaka. Saved by Ziegler, and Connect will take it up the floor. Connect hesitates down the lane, draws some contact, and will head to the stripe.
And Purdue fans can complain all they want, but Zach Edey's got to have better awareness. I mean, that was a clean block by Owaka right there, and he's got to have better awareness. This is what happens sometimes for Purdue. They have 4 losses on the season as we reach the under 12 timeout. And in all 4 of those games, what often happens is that Edey loses awareness and they constantly try to go to him and he forces up shots. Got to be more aware, try to pass it back out as he's been so great at the whole season.
Tennessee nursing a 3-point lead, 11:20 left in the half. Volunteers 17, Boilermakers 14. Dalton Connect with 10 for Tennessee, 4 of 6 from the field, 2 of 2 from distance. He's going to be at the free throw line shooting 2. And coming into this game, Neal, we were talking about it beforehand, Tennessee was going to need a star performance from their star player, Dalton Connect.
Certainly, and I mean, we've seen now the microwave heat-up ability of Dalton Connect. 10 points in a very short span over about a 2 or 3 minute stretch earlier in this game. Great job getting to the line. I mean, he just does everything well. He's a coach's dream, to be honest, because on offense, he doesn't take a ridiculous amount of shots. At times, he can have poor shot selection, but the way that Connect is able to snake away from defenders and slither through lanes and kind of get to the cup, it's something to marvel at, really. And then he's a solid defender on the other end.
And you want to talk about a guy like Dalton Connect, a transfer from Utah State. Transfer is going to play a big part in this game. That's the modern era of college basketball that we live in. For Tennessee, Connect, the big name, and for the Boilermakers, it's Lance Jones, the 6'1" guard that they brought in from Southern Illinois. He's been a godsend for Purdue this season, providing an excellent 3-and-D player on the wing for the Boilermakers.
And Lance Jones, he's such a professional in the sense that he knows his role. Listen, this isn't a flashy guy. He's not going to go to the NBA and not going to have a big role, at least in the NBA. But he knows his role when it comes to college basketball, which is shoot threes, provide spacing, and play great perimeter defense. And he's done exactly that today. He shoots 36% from the year on the season from 3, and they're going to need it today.
12-point per game boost to the lineup that Matt Painter picked up in the portal this offseason. For Connect and Rick Barnes, it was 21 points per game out of the portal. Don't see that very often, especially at the high major level in a conference like the SEC, a school like Tennessee. Both of these players have been major boosts to their teams and major reasons why they were 1 and 2 seeds and playing in the Elite Eight. The Midwest, the only of the 4 regions where both the 1 and 2 seeds have both survived and made their way to the Elite Eight. We have a 4 and an 11 in the South. A 1 seed over a 3, UConn over Illinois in the East last night. And then in the West, it was the 4-seeded Alabama Crimson Tide knocking off the 6-seed Clemson Tigers to punch their ticket to Phoenix in the Final Four. We touched on it earlier, Neal. Both of these teams, long Final Four droughts. Tennessee never been there. Purdue looking for their first trip since 1980.
Yeah, a lot at stake. I mean, we saw what was at stake yesterday in those two semifinal or regional final games, I should say. And, you know, this means so much to all these schools in this tournament. You reach the Final Four, you can put up a banner even if you don't win the national championship, but you know what it means is that you still have another game or two to try to win the big thing. And so, you know, these teams have been looking for it for a long time, and now they get the opportunity to head to Phoenix.
So they're going to say the foul on Connect was on the floor. So Tennessee will inbound from the baseline. Ziegler, the trigger man, looking to get it in, and he'll just float it up for Adu, who's checked back in for Rick Barnes. A probing Ziegler will pull it back out. Lance Jones defending, receives a screen from Adu. Ziegler, pocket pass, free throw line jumper from Adu is short. Rebound goes to Braden Smith. He's been hitting the glass hard today. Lance Jones takes it over the timeline for Purdue. Picked up by Meshack right at midcourt. Braden Smith receives a screen from Gillis and Kaufman-Renn. Kick out to Gillis, top of the key. Lance Jones now far side wing into the lane. Lance Jones, tough shot, won't fall. And there's contact going against Purdue, so Tennessee will take over possession.
And this is the 5-out lineup for the Purdue Boilermakers right now with Edey out of the game. Kaufman-Renn's the big, but even he can shoot it somewhat, and so that's going to be something to watch out for and defend for Tennessee as Edey, I guess, take back what I said, is right back in the game.
Real short break for Zach Edey. Trey Kaufman-Renn picks up the foul on the loose ball. Ziegler over midcourt, finds Connect, guarded by Colvin. Connect receives a screen, left elbow, tough shot from Connect, ping-pongs its way around the rim and eventually makes its way into the breadbasket of Zach Edey. Braden Smith moving right to left, lines up a three. Braden Smith, kaboom!
Man, and there's a guy who just fills up the stat sheet, as Braden Smith mentioned that he had 14 points, 15 assists, and 8 rebounds in the last game. He's doing so right now with 7 and 3.
Ziegler into the lane, probing. Adu, short shot, no good. That was the first 3 of the day for the Boilermakers as they tie it up at 17 apiece. Smith down the lane, lost the handle, poked away. Edey's got it. Edey's hook is up and down. Ziegler picked up by Jones at three-quarter court. Gets it to Meshack at the top of the key. This Boilermaker crowd coming alive, Neal. Ziegler has it near side wing. Guarded by Jones. Ziegler into the lane, looking for a crease. Into Adu. Adu loses the handle. Jones gets on the floor for it. It's a loose ball, and it's picked up by Purdue. Under 9:30 to go. Across the court to Gillis. Gillis back to Colvin. Colvin hesitates. Pull-up jumper from the mid-range. Won't drop. And the rebound is off of Tennessee. Adu and Connect both went up for it, and neither came down with it.
Kelin, look at the effort on the floor right now. 3 guys diving after the ball in the last possession. Tennessee now, it's a 4-minute, 50-second scoring drought. The Volunteers, we knew it was going to be a game of runs. They had one of their own earlier. Now they need to stop the bleeding, and they need to start it with a stop here.
Lawyer will inbound from the baseline for Purdue. Owaka guarding Edey, top of the key. Jones has it now, defended by Ziegler. Over to the near side with Smith. Vescovy defending. Smith floats it up, looking for a pass to Edey, and a miscommunication as that pass just hits the bottom of the net and goes out of bounds. Tobe Owaka, the 6'8 sophomore, has given Rick Barnes some good minutes so far defending Zach Edey, despite the 8-inch height disadvantage. Ziegler goes left to right. Owaka top of the key, now to James. Back to Ziegler. Connect off the floor for Tennessee. Who can provide a scoring punch? Ziegler looking for an outlet. Finds Meshack. 7 on the timer for the Volunteers. Meshack kick out. 3 is up and down. Josiah Jordan James provides the spark for Tennessee.
And that's 2 threes from Jordan James now, coming from the left wing. He loves that spot, a very smooth lefty stroke.
32% shooter on the season, shot it well in Detroit. Into Edey, poked away. Tobe Awaka with good hands. And Vescovi will slow it down. Back to the left side with Ziegler, who will conduct the flow of traffic for Tennessee. Makes his way left to right. Vescovi on the wing. Awaka now top of the key. Back to Jordan James in the left slot. Vescovi to the elbow. Thought about a pull-up. Now gets it back. Corner pocket. Zakai Ziegler. His three is good. Tennessee, back-to-back triples. Gives them a 4-point lead.
And there you go. Boilermakers go on a 7-0 run. Tennessee matches it with a 6-0.
Smith down the lane. Tough bucket inside. Braden Smith with a nice move to the cup. 7:30 to go. 23-21 in favor of Tennessee. Zakai Ziegler finds Awaka top of the key. Edey provides him with some space. Now to Meshack. Ziegler to James. James pumps, makes his way into the lane. Shut off at the cup, and a little fader over Gillis is good. How about this guy, Josiah Jordan James, with some big-time buckets with Connect on the bench.
Yeah, he's giving them some great minutes right now. I thought he maybe should have taken that all the way to the cup, but nonetheless, the fadeaway worked.
Braden Smith, cross court. Lance Jones, his triple, misses everything. Meshack secures the air ball and drops it off for Ziegler. Ziegler over the timeline, defended by Jones. Ziegler moves left to right to the right side wing. Awaka now top of the key. Tennessee getting into their set. Ziegler barking out orders, receives a screen, probing against Edey and Jones, drops it off for Awaka. Awaka loses it on the way up. Good hands from Jones. Here come the Boilermakers. Down the lane, little Euro step from Fletcher Lawyer, and it bounces off the rim, no good. Meshack drops it off for James, and now Ziegler will slow it down. 6:15 left in the first. Screen for Ziegler. Ziegler behind the back, into the lane, tough shot, and he draws contact. He'll head to the stripe. Zakai Ziegler draws the foul. 4-point Tennessee lead pending 2 more free throws.
Yep, as we hit the under 8 here. And yeah, I mean, Lance Jones has to be more disciplined right there on defense. You know, Ziegler loves to, kind of stop and hesitate as he's driving to the basket. And he just hit them with a little hezzy and then got him in the air, for Lance Jones. And, Ziegler, he's just so good. He's so meticulous, and he's so agile and quick. I mean, his first step is probably the quickest in college basketball. And I've seen this guy for 2 years now since they played Michigan in the round of 32 in 2022. And Ziegler, I mean, he was a highlight of that game for Tennessee as well. He's just so fast. He's so hard to defend.
4-point lead for Tennessee, 25-21. If you're just joining us, thank you for listening to WCBN Sports coverage of the Midwest Regional, the Elite Eight from Detroit. My name's Kelin Flynn. Neal Sinha, my good friend to my right. He'll be taking over play-by-play in the second half, and we are thrilled to be here covering this game. Nothing better than college basketball in the month of March.
No, not at all. I mean, the worst part about college basketball at this point of the season is that we have to wait a week after this weekend to watch the next games. And so, but it's high-level elite basketball, and that's what we've seen today. That's what we saw 2 days ago also in Little Caesars Arena in the Sweet 16, featuring these two teams as well. And, I mean, it's just back and forth, Kelin, and we knew it would be a fast-paced game today. We knew it was going to be a heavyweight fight with these two teams throwing punches over and over, but it's lived up to the billing so far.
Little Caesars Arena, the host site. We're all the way up on top of the gondolas, and it's been a fun one so far. College basketball in the D. As two Metro Detroit natives, it's always fun to see primetime hoops here. 2027, I believe it is, when the city of Detroit will host the Final Four.
Yeah, in Ford Field.
An exciting time. Michigan State University, the host school. The regional host schools are UOD and Oakland. Oakland went on their Cinderella run over Kentucky in the South region. Jack Golke, a fantastic story there. Started off, played at Hillsdale College, and then transferred to Oakland to play for Greg Campy. 10 3-pointers in their win over Kentucky, and probably the highest degree of difficulty threes I've ever seen made at that clip.
Yeah, I mean, he was the definition of a heat-up shooter if you'll ever see one from three-point land. I mean, Golke, I think there was some stat in that game, Kelin, that he only took like 5 dribbles or something like that.
Klay Thompson-esque stuff.
It's just unbelievable what he was able to do. But, no, you mentioned it. In Detroit, watching college hoops, it's a different feel. It's a new spice, I would say, to the city that's so used to its 4 sports teams. But, you know, in a city that hasn't seen some great professional basketball over the last, I don't even want to count how many years, 6 years, it's nice to see some tough college hoops and you know, some back-and-forth basketball here. Great crowd as well.
Well, and those that paid the price of admission are getting treated to it tonight. Mostly black and orange. A couple of Creighton and Gonzaga fans that maybe got the A and B pass that stuck around for a great game today, but mostly Tennessee and Purdue fans. Zakai Ziegler at the line to shoot 2. Lance Jones picked up the foul. First free throw is up and good for Ziegler.
Yeah, and Ziegler around a 74-75% free throw shooter. That's really where all the Volunteers hover at free throw percentages.
Second one won't fall. Ziegler all the way into the backcourt to chase down the miss. Tripped up by Fletcher Lawyer, and that's another foul on the Boilermakers.
And that's a couple of unlucky bounces that Purdue's faced really in this first half. Ziegler had a 3 at the beginning of this game that he didn't even go for the rebound. The ball somehow came all the way back to him 40 feet from the basket. And here's another one from the free throw line. So Tennessee, an extra possession. They got to take advantage of it.
And Zakai Ziegler so quick, able to chase down that loose ball. Excellent speed from the point guard spot for Rick Barnes. Ziegler defended by Braden Smith over half court. James inbounds from the sideline. Ziegler over the midcourt line. Connect back in for Tennessee, gets into the corner, puts up a 3, puts it in. Dalton Connect, another one.
And Camden Heedy, who doesn't get a lot of minutes for Purdue, he's got to play better defense. I mean, Connect can't be that open from the corner.
Connect's third three-pointer on the day. 8-point Tennessee lead. Lawyer, nowhere to go with it, finds Kaufman-Wren. Kaufman-Wren looking into Edey. Defended well. Edey has a Strella on him who's checked into the game, and Edey can't finish. Ziegler up the floor. Ziegler looking for an outlet. Back to Vescovy. Vescovy down the lane. Left-handed floater. Too strong. Gets his own miss. Connect. His three-pointer. Bang! Dalton Connect! He cannot miss, folks.
Oh, my goodness. They are on fire right now. It's a 9-0 Tennessee run, 12-2 run as well over the last 3.5 minutes. And we talked about the ability that this Volunteers team has to go on runs. They've shown it now twice early in this game. Vescovy showed a little rust going for that floater that he missed the rim entirely, but able to get his own rebound, and you just cannot leave the All-American Dalton Connect open from three-point land. I don't know why Purdue's thought that's been a good idea, but 4 threes now, 4 of 4 from behind the arc for Dalton Connect.
16 so far from Connect, and we've seen him have some explosions this season in the scoring department. Scored 39 against a real good Auburn team earlier this year to close down SEC play for Tennessee, who had a gauntlet of a schedule down the stretch, playing games against Alabama, Auburn, and Kentucky. And they earned their way to the 2 line. And now holding on to an 11-point lead against the 1-seeded Boilermakers, fueled by some fantastic three-point shooting. 7 from 10 from distance as a team. Dalton Connect 4 of 4. Josiah Jordan-James helping out in that department as well. He's got 8 points, 2 of 2 from distance, 3 of 3 from the floor.
You know, and you mentioned the tough schedule that this Tennessee team has played from, you know, the end of the season in SEC play, playing Auburn, Alabama, South Carolina, Kentucky, 4 straight games. But how about their non-conference schedule as well? I mean, this is one of the most battle-tested teams in the country, man. I mean, Tennessee played Purdue, Kansas, North Carolina, Illinois, Ole Miss, Wisconsin. I mean, they played so many tough teams in the non-conference, and it's that type of experience that helps out when you come into March and then early April for these big tournament games. And Tennessee, 2-1 this regular season against Big Ten teams. They were 4-1 against the other Elite Eight teams. They played a lot of these Elite Eight teams. Again, their lone loss in both of those two statistics were to these Purdue Boilermakers. And so trying to slay those Dragons a little bit and finally knock off this Purdue team that's given Tennessee some trouble under Rick Barnes.
Tennessee shooting it at a 44% clip from the field. Purdue 35% from the field, 14% from distance, just 1 of 7. Both teams have gotten to the free throw line at about the same rate. 4 free throws for Tennessee, 5 for Purdue. Each team has missed 1. Rebounding department, almost as even as you can get. 15 for Tennessee, 16 for Purdue. 10 assists for the Volunteers compared to 4 for the Boilermakers. Purdue has been led by Zach Edey with 10 so far, Braden Smith with 9. It's been a two-headed monster for Purdue thus far.
Yeah, and look to see more production really from Fletcher Lawyer. Has not taken a 3, or has not made a 3 yet in this game, doesn't have a single point. He got his scoring high against this Tennessee team earlier this season.
Full court pressure broken by the Boilermakers, and on cue, Fletcher Lawyer takes it coast to coast for the deuce. Tennessee came out of the break in a press, and Purdue knifed through it with ease.
And how about Lawyer making me look relatively smart there?
Estrella sets a screen for Ziegler, pulls up a 3, won't fall. Rebound goes to Edey. 4:44 to go in the first. Braden Smith up the near sideline, picked up by Ziegler at the dash mark. Couple of screens from Edey. Smith gets his defender in the air. Edey wide open in the paint. Easy two-handed stuff for the big fella. And try to get it up the floor to connect. They're going to say he stepped out of bounds. And just like that, a turnover from the Volunteers. Purdue just cut the lead down to 7, and they've got the ball back.
And I'm telling you, it's just a game of runs. We're going to be going back and forth the whole night. I mean, Purdue, it's a small 4-0 run, but they're going to need to try to continue to extend it right now to tighten this thing up at halftime.
Lawyer to trigger in, finds Gillis, and more pressure from Tennessee. We've seen Purdue's guards struggle at times this season with full court pressure. 32-25, Volunteers lead Purdue. Smith knifing through some screens, gets to the right elbow, tough shot, gets it into Edey. Edey lost the handle on the way up, good hands. James loses it, gets on top of the ball. Edey on top of him, and we got a tie-up.
Well, Zach Edey got very lucky right there because he was complaining at the officials for a foul. And he's a little frustrated right now with how it's being officiated down low. He wanted a foul, and then there was a loose ball right in front of him. Luckily enough, he was able to dive for it, but possibly should have been called for an over-the-back foul on his own right there. He's reaching around Jordan James entirely.
And from our angle on the replay, it looked like a clean poke on Edey. Lawyer inbounding, finds Jones in the corner. Up to Braden Smith, who's picked up by Santiago Vescovi, the Argentinian native. Jones picks up Gillis on the far side wing. Edey top of the key now. 3:50 to go, 5 on the timer. Lawyer down the lane, right-handed, flip up and in.
Such a good take by Fletcher Lawyer, and just as we mentioned earlier that they needed him to have a good game, he's turned it up with 2 buckets.
Connect, pull-up jumper from near the elbow, off target. Rebound Mason Gillis. Smith up the floor, getting to the middle. And we'll pull it back out. He's guarded by Connect. We've got a foul off the ball, and that's going to go against Tennessee.
Yeah, and
Purdue on a 6-0 run here over the last 2 minutes or so.
Looked like Fletcher Lawyer was trying to get freed up for a shot, and Tennessee going to get called for the foul on Josiah Jordan James. But, I mean, man, Lawyer just came out of nowhere. He was having such a quiet night, hadn't made a bucket, and then gets 2 relatively easy layups, but just builds the confidence entirely. And for Purdue, you know, cutting it back to 5 here, Kelin, don't be surprised if we have a tie game at half.
Tennessee went on their big run, then out of the timeout, Purdue strings together a couple of stops and a couple of hoops. 32-27, Volunteers leading the Purdue Boilermakers. Tennessee, the 2 seed, Purdue, the 1 seed in the Midwest. Purdue, one of 2 number 1 seeds still alive in this tournament. Houston fell to Duke in the Sweet 16 after losing their star guard, Jamal Shead. Duke taking on NC State later today will be the final ticket punched to Phoenix for the Final Four.
Yeah, and just a heartbreak for Houston. I mean, Jamal Shead has had just such a good season for the Cougars there. And, you know, you got to feel for them. Houston was very much in that game. They were actually leading when Shead went down. Lose a very close game despite not having him for a whole second half as well as half of the first half. You got to wonder what could have happened for the senior and his squad had he been healthy. But nonetheless, I mean, injuries happen, and Duke can't take, you know, any pity for that. I mean, they played well in that game, and they deserve to be moving on to the Elite Eight as well. And how about NC State? How about that run? I mean, their coach possibly was going to get fired before or after, excuse me, the ACC tournament. NC State was not expected to make the NCAA tournament. They go on the run, the ACC, win it, and then he gets extended, coaching contract extended, and now the Wolfpack heading to the Elite Eight with a game away from heading to the Final Four. It's just an unbelievable story.
You want to talk about Cinderella and the glass slippers still fitting. It's the Wolfpack of NC State. Won 5 games in 5 days to win the ACC tournament and punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament. They were not going to make it as an at-large and had to win the tournament, their conference tournament, to get in. Then once they get in, knock off 6-seed Texas Tech, knock off Oakland, and then take down 2-seeded Marquette in the Sweet 16 to make it to the Elite Eight in Dallas.
And this by far will be the Wolfpack's biggest challenge so far. You know, Duke is, in my opinion, a much better squad than that Marquette team, despite what the seeding might show. And so that, you know, that's going to be a difficult game for NC State, no doubt about it. But they beat Duke in the ACC tournament in the second game that they played in that tournament. So anything is possible for the Wolfpack, and they've certainly showed that to be true. And, you know, of course, the winner of this game will play that team. But you got to think, Kelin, that either Tennessee or Purdue will likely be favored by quite a bit, or at least a little bit, depending on, you know, whoever comes out and whoever plays Duke and NC State.
Both squads back on the floor. Edey at the stripe. Purdue in the bonus. Edey's shot is up and in, so he'll get one more. Trimming the lead down to 4 for Tennessee. Jonas Aidoo checks back in for the Volunteers. It's Ziegler, Meshack, Connect, James, and Aidoo for Tennessee. For the Boilermakers, Edey shooting, and he converts on his second free throw. The backcourt of Smith and Lawyer, Gillis and Jones, and then Edey in the middle. 3-point ball game. 3:16 to go. James to Connect, hesitates. Dalton Connect tries to go up, poked away by Lawyer. Lawyer hits the deck, fouled from behind by Meshack, and that's more free throws for the Boilermakers. One of the best teams in the country at getting to the line continues to live at the stripe.
Just so smart from Fletcher Lawyer there with the strong side defense, gets the ball, poking it free from Connect. And then how about the awareness to know that Meshack was behind him and just slow down to draw that foul. I mean, that was so intelligent from Fletcher Lawyer right there.
Got Meshack on his hip, the Clarkston, Michigan native, and a bit of a homecoming here in Detroit. Real good free throw shooter. Shoots it at an 86% clip, and he knocks down the first. Tennessee lead has dwindled down to 2. It's been a 9-0 run for the Boilermakers.
Yeah, and it's been, frankly, led by this guy right now, Fletcher Lawyer. I mean, he got the 2 quick layups, and then the free throws here. He scored 6 of those 10 points.
1 point Tennessee lead. 3 minutes to go before halftime. Back to Vescovi, now into Adu. Adu on the low block, will dribble it out. Gets it to Connect. Connect lines up a three, and it rattles out. His first miss from distance. 2:45 left. Smith, high pick and roll with Edey. Probing, nowhere to go with it. And he eventually finds Mason Gillis at the top of the key. Edey one-on-one with Adu. Off the window and in. Purdue's got the lead back.
And you just had a feeling that Purdue was going to fight back here at the end of this first half.
Ziegler down the lane, threw it away. Ball loose on the floor. Vescovi and Edey tie up for it. Santiago Vescovi with some real hustle to get on the floor and tie up Zach Edey there. Playing through some sickness, coughs into his jersey. Hustle play from 25.
Yeah, and Vescovi on the other end, he was trying to get a block on Edey, came sprinting about 50 feet from the left wing to try to block Edey at the right block. This time on defense, or on offense, excuse me, comes up and gets the tie-up. Great play.
Ziegler triggers in. Vescovi wide open for three. Won't go. Up the floor, it's Braden Smith, picked up by Zakai Ziegler. High pick and roll again with Edey. Hard hedge from Adu. Couple of crossovers into the lane. Dancing is Braden Smith, fouled on the way up. He'll head to the line. Purdue absolutely living at the stripe during this 12-0 run.
And Braden Smith absolutely orchestrating this Purdue offense. I mean, he's got a nice crossover. He's nice and quick with it on the perimeter. And we mentioned how he fills up the stat sheet. He's been doing that already. 9 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. I mean, Braden Smith off to a very solid start. He'll have a couple free throws awaiting him.
First free throw from Smith is left short. Braden Smith, an 81% shooter from the stripe this season, with 9 points, 5 boards, 2 assists so far today. Second free throw ping-pongs its way around the rim and misses. 0 for 2 at the stripe, and another tie-up on the floor. It's Connect and Mason Gillis, so it'll go to Purdue this time. Good hustle from the senior Gillis.
And Kelin, if anyone thinks that these guys aren't giving their absolute all, I mean, think again. I mean, we have seen both of these squads just diving all over the floor. Mason Gillis right there, a hell of an effort play. And Purdue, Tennessee, punches just being thrown back and forth. It's a heavyweight battle here in Detroit.
Let's go Boilers chants echoing throughout Little Caesars Arena. There's a lot of black and gold in Detroit. Tennessee getting held down by a 12-0 Purdue run over the last 3 minutes. Tennessee on a 3-minute scoring drought of their own. Edey, post up, kick out, Jones splits a couple of defenders. Smith in the corner. He'll head in, kick out, Lawyer down the lane. He'll lay it up and blocked by James. Josiah Jordan James with a big block. Ziegler fouled 90 feet away by Mason Gillis, and now Tennessee will get to go to the line.
Yeah, and I'm just not sure about Fletcher Lawyer there, driving into a crowd of 3 orange jerseys. Maybe he should have kicked that one out, as it looked like might have had Braden Smith on the wing or something. Something would have been a better decision than that.
A big-time block from the 6'7" guard, Josiah Jordan James. 1-1 for Zakai Ziegler. First free throw won't drop. Edey boards it up court to Braden Smith. Tennessee can't buy one right now. Just under 100 ticks left in the half. Gillis, top of the key, finds Edey. Edey hands it off to Lawyer. Lawyer thought about a three. Pumps now into Edey. Edey going to work on Adu, draws some contact, and will head back to the stripe. It's not pretty to watch, but Purdue suffocating Tennessee at the line right now.
They are, and I mean, it all starts with Zach Edey, and his intelligence, because he's just so smart with how he lines himself up on the floor and how to box guys out, as well as using his 7'4" frame. But it's his footwork. I mean, Zach Edey's footwork and his technique has improved so much down low from this season to last season and the season before, he's gotten so much better, and it's what allows him to post up guys like Jonas Adu and just create so much space under the rim. Tell you what, Edey's been staring at the rim this whole time as they've been waiting for the officials and someone to mop the floor here.
Edey's first free throw is no good, a bit too strong from the 7'4" Canadian.
Yeah, it was a long time to wait before taking that free throw, and I think Edey was certainly starting to think about it. Very solid free throw shooter in comparison to last year, though.
JP Estrella and Jordan Gainey check in for Tennessee. Second free throw also misses, and we have
a lane violation.
Foul, or excuse me, a lane violation.
Wow.
And that's on Tennessee, so Edey's going to get one more.
You do not see that one too often. And Tennessee actually had a lane violation earlier in the game that I think the official was going to call, but Purdue made the free throw anyway, so they let it go.
Edey's third shot is up and good. 1 point lead now for the Boilermakers. Excuse me, 2 point lead. 80 seconds left in the half. Ziegler picked up by Smith. Into connect, elbow fall away, too strong. Rebound, Braden Smith. He's been pounding the glass tonight. Lawyer receives a screen from Edey. Connect defending, turned around. Lawyer puts up a three, won't go. Long rebound tipped out to Smith. Smith hits Jones. Jones picked up by Gainey. Shut off, headed toward the baseline. Tried to get rid of it, and it's picked up by Don't Connect. Smooth wraparound, Connect down the lane and down hard with two hands. Tie game 34-34. Connect breaks the seal with a two-handed stuff.
Yeah, unfortunate from Jones losing the handle, and Connect was taking that one on his own the whole way, no doubt about it.
Gillis has it. Second difference between the shot and game clock. Edey's shot bounces up and down. 2 point Boilermaker lead. Shot clock turned off, 15 seconds to go. Ziegler will make his way over half court, call a timeout. 2 point Boilermaker lead, 14 seconds to go in the half. This is Elite Eight basketball, Neal, at its best.
It certainly is, and Zach Edey, a little bit of feistiness coming out of the big fella too, as he looked over at the Tennessee bench just nodding and then waving his hand to Rick Barnes there, knowing a timeout was going to be called. It's a good timeout for Rick Barnes. I mean, hadn't used one at all this half, and so for Tennessee, you get to regroup and reset from a drawn-out play from the inbound for the Volunteers at the sideline at half court. And so Rick Barnes, it's going to need to be his best play so far this game to try to tie it up or possibly take the lead. Tennessee, great job weathering the storm from Purdue, coming back on this 15-2 run over the last almost 5 minutes. They've done a solid job at least holding on somewhat to their lead and, you know, keeping this almost a tie game somewhere near it, near halftime.
14.8 left on the game clock. Shot clock turned off. Tennessee will inbound from the far sideline, just over half court, right at the hash mark. Estrella, Ziegler, Connect, Gainey, and James.
And gotta think this one's going to Dalton Connect.
8 seconds now. Connect has it, top of the key. 5, receives a screen from Estrella. Dalton Connect doubled, tough shot on the way. Follow from Estrella won't go. Purdue takes a 2-point lead into halftime. A big 15-2 run to close out the half gives the Boilermakers a 2-point lead. Neal, this has been a fantastic game so far. Dalton Connect leading the way with 18 in the first half for Purdue. 4 of 5 from distance. Red hot shooting from the SEC Player of the Year. And for the Boilermakers, it was Zach Edey with 19 points and 10 rebounds, a double-double in the first half from the big fella. Fletcher Lawyer came alive late with 6, and Braden Smith really contributing as well for Purdue. He poured in 9 points in that first half.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll tell you what, the star power from both of these squads have shown up. I mean, you got two guys that are Naismith National Player of the Year finalists. And so between Edey and Dalton Connect, and they've certainly shown up right now. Edey with 19 points, as you mentioned, Connect with 18 of his own. I mean, these are two of the highest scorers in the country, both top 10 in the country in scoring in Division I, and they've shown why. And for Purdue, I mean, what a great job weathering that storm that Tennessee had earlier in this game. It has absolutely been a game of runs. I mean, the amount of 6-0 runs countered with 7-0 runs countered with a 10-0, 15-2 run. I mean, we've seen it all in this game, and both of these teams have shown some resiliency as well as some star power and microwave or heat up ability. And, I mean, you got to be impressed right now.
And Neal, Purdue, in the first half, only 1 of 8 from 3. If you're Matt Painter going into halftime, you've got to love where you're at. Up 2, and you haven't shot it well at all from distance.
No, not at all. And I mean, it's been very shocking, too, that Mason Gillis as well as Lance Jones have not made a 3. Lance Jones hasn't even taken, or excuse me, he's taken 2 threes. But between the two of them, they've only attempted 3. And that's just a surprise. I mean, it's a Purdue team that loves to spread you out outside of Zach Edey, and they do a pretty good job of that. And so we haven't seen it too much. But just as you mentioned, I mean, Matt Painter has to be ecstatic about that they only made 1 3 in that first half, and they have a 2-point lead over this just fantastic Tennessee squad. And so I think the game plan for Purdue in the second half really is similar to what they did in the first half. Keep going to Edey, and it's honestly what they've done the whole year. Go to Edey, have him facilitate the offense, and spread it out. If you can get Mason Gillis some open looks from the corners, great. Lance Jones is going to be playing on the wings all over. If you can get him a couple good looks, I think that's the game plan for Purdue, and they got to be relatively confident in that.
Well, we will step away for about 15 minutes or so and be back with second half coverage. Neal will be on play-by-play. I'll be taking over the color duties, and we'll take you home, find out who is going to be punching their ticket to the Final Four, Purdue or Tennessee. Boilermakers 36, Volunteers 34 through 20 with 20 to go. You're tuned into the Elite Eight of the Midwest Regional here on WCBN Sports.
Hello and welcome back to WCBN Sports live coverage of the Elite Eight from Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan. It's the one-seeded Purdue Boilermakers with a 2-point lead, 36-34, over the two-seeded Tennessee Volunteers of the Midwest region. A shot to go to the Final Four. Both of these teams, we've talked about the trends, have not been there in a long time, and in Tennessee's case, ever. And Kelin, and my name is Neal, Sinha, of course joined by Kelin Flynn, as we'll be your commentators for the second half. Kelin, you know, a very back and forth first half. We've talked about what's at stake. Just speak on, you know, some of the nerves that these two teams have to be facing coming out of the halftime huddle.
Well, clearly Dalton Connect has not had any nerves this game. Came in red hot, 4 of 5 from 3, 7 of 14 from the field, 18 points in that first half, and Zach Edey really hasn't been feeling it either. He's been doing his thing, 19 and 10 in that first half. Fletcher Lawyer may have came out, felt some of those nerves to start the game, but really calmed things down. These are both teams that have been battle tested this season, teams that have had tournament experience, and I think are ready to take that next step. So I really expect both these squads to come out firing. I know Purdue's guards are young. That's the one spot to look at. Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer struggled in that loss to Fairleigh Dickinson last year. They've been much better this season, but have had their ups and downs. Can Zakai Ziegler and these guards for Tennessee heat up the Purdue backcourt and put some pressure on them and potentially force them to crack?
Certainly, as we're getting ready to come back to action here in Little Caesars Arena. 20 minutes will be put on the timer. 20 minutes will decide which team will head to the Final Four. For Purdue, they're looking for their first Final Four appearance since 1980 for the Tennessee Volunteers in their second ever Elite Eight, looking ahead to the coveted Final Four for their first time ever, as Detroit Piston Asar Thompson is in attendance here in Little Caesars Arena. And so the 5 for the Tennessee Volunteers are led by Dalton Connect, Jonas Adu, Zakai Ziegler, Jordan Mashak, Jordan James, and then for Purdue, it'll be Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Wren, Zach Edey, and Lance Jones. As Lance Jones immediately in the second half gets a steal. Jones now other way, all the way to the hoop, and lays it up and in off the window. Quick start for the Boilermakers. Expect some quick transition here. Zakai Ziegler from the left wing. Jones is fronting him. Ziegler at the point. Looking around, finds Connect in the mid-range. Dumps it off down low to Adu. Adu spins around, back out, Connect. Wide open three from the corner. Bingo! Dalton Connect, nothing but nylon. And Tennessee cuts it to 1.
How about this kid, Neal? Absolute money today. 5 of 6 from deep.
Braden Smith now on the other way. Look for Edey, throws it away, and here comes Tennessee back the other way. Connect wants an oop. He's going to take it and lays it up and in. And Tennessee, just like that, erases the 2-point halftime deficit they had and takes the lead 39-38 with 18:50 to go. Smith now a foot inside the half court, dribbles it up, stops back out, dumps it off to Edey below the basket, and he turns and hooks it up and in with the right hand. A lot of Tennessee fans in attendance, but certainly Purdue fans are the favorite here, and they've shown up and shown out. Ziegler now with it on the right wing. Gets the switch, flips it back out to Dalton Connect, working on Braden Smith. Connect, high screener from Adu, into lane, outside it's Ziegler. Wide open lane, he's going to take a floater off the back rim and out, rebounded by Kaufman-Wren.
And we saw Ziegler really dialed in on that floater on Friday, not so much today.
Yeah, he's had a couple open looks so far today, unable to hit either of them. Edey now at the point, finds Braden Smith, who got whacked across the face. And we're going to get a quick foul on, I believe it's Jemai Mashak for Tennessee. Yeah, and that is his third personal foul, I should say, for Jemai Mashak. Something to watch out for. Rick Barnes and this Tennessee squad is dealing with some foul troubles. They had 10 team fouls in the first half. quite a few different guys have picked up at least one or two.
Well, fortunately for Rick Barnes, he can pull a season-long starter off the bench in Santiago Vescovi to come in.
And Vescovi struggled really to get it going. Of course, coming into this game as a player off the bench really for just the second time this season after he's been dealing with some flu issues. Zach Edey now under the basket, outside. Fletcher Lawyer has it, dribbles into the lane, throws up a right-hand floater off the back rim, picked up by Edey, and then he draws a foul as he goes up for a shot. We'll see who it's called on. And the officials are putting up the fingers. It's on Josiah Jordan James, and so for Jordan James, that's his second personal foul. So now for Tennessee, you have two guys with two personals with Adu and Jordan James, and you have Meshack with 3. Some starters in foul trouble early for the Volunteers in the second half. Edey leaves the first free throw just short.
And Zach Edey, just when he brought that offensive rebound in, just wrapped the ball up and started to go up. Didn't even really shoot it. Just already had orange jerseys harassing him. The best in the country at getting to the line.
And he's certainly been dealing with a lot of those contacts down low. Edey rattles home the second. So Purdue takes a 41-39 lead with 17:38 to go here in Detroit. Ziegler across the timeline, dumps it off. Vescovi now at the right wing. Connect now, near corner. Back outside to Ziegler. Braden Smith is on Ziegler. We get a high screener. Ziegler dribbling into the lane left to right, puts up a right-hand floater and gets fouled as he left the shot short. So Ziegler will head to the line for 2. Foul is called on Braden Smith, and so that will be his second personal foul as well. So quite a few guys now with 2 personals. Trey Kaufman-Wren picked up 2 earlier in this game and had to sit out quite a bit of that first half. Yeah. Ziegler's first leaves it short. My goodness, dealing with some foul shooting troubles from both of these squads.
Free throws so important in the month of March. You have to execute from the stripe.
Ziegler drains the second and cuts the lead to 1 for Purdue. Boilermakers have been so good this season, 32-4 on the season, looking for their first Final Four appearance in 44 years. Edey now at the left wing. Finds Kaufman-Wren near the point. Wren dribbling with the left hand, close to the ground, dumps it off down low to Edey, working on Adu, and we're going to get a foul called before he even received the pass. And that's going to be Adu's 3rd personal foul, Kelin.
And Tobe Awaka already checking in for Tennessee. He's been real good today, but this is what happens when you play Purdue and Zach Edey. You pick up fouls because at 7'4", he is impossible to guard without fouling consistently.
And already 3 team fouls on Tennessee. Back to action. The trigger man was Lawyer. He dumps it off to Zach Edey down low, working on Awaka. Good defense from Awaka. Getting real low to the ground as Awaka. Edey tried to make a turn. We're going to get a foul called on Awaka, which Rick Barnes is not happy about.
And I'm right there with Rick Barnes. I don't know what you're supposed to do. Awaka's just leaning into him, preventing Edey from, he's holding his ground essentially. I'm not sure what else you're supposed to do.
I'm not a fan of that call either. Braden Smith receives the inbound, and they're going to go down low to Awaka. He already has 3 personals. Outside, it's Lawyer. Straight lane 3. Got it. Purdue extends the lead, 44-40, with 16.5 to go. Braden Smith is all over Ziegler, 40 feet from the cup. Cup, connect now from the corner, misses it. Edey working for the rebound, and what's the call? It's going to be a jump ball as Awaka had a hand on it. Some high intensity here, Kelin.
Credit to Tobe Awaka. He is absolutely grinding down low against Zach Edey with that 8-inch height disadvantage.
And I mean, Tobe Awaka against most players doesn't really give up much. If anything, he's the one who's usually taller at 6'8". But when you got 7'4" Zach Edey, it's certainly making things tough. Braden Smith now in the all whites for Purdue, going right to left from our vantage point. Finds Kaufman-Wren at the point. Outside, it's Lance Jones at the far wing. Jones now. Dribbling slow, little yo-yo dribble, working on connect. Up top, it's Braden Smith again. High screener from Wren. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Smith misses the three long, picked up by Connect. Connect now looking to go to work in transition. Does coast to coast, off the window and off. And Dalton Connect draws a foul on, I believe it's going to be on Fletcher Lawyer here.
And I like the aggressiveness from Dalton Connect there. Get out and run in transition. There's limited opportunities to get to the cup against Purdue, and when Edey's back standing at midcourt, that's when you've got to attack the basket and put pressure on those guards, get to the rim, draw some contact, just like he did right there.
And we'll hit the under 16 media timeout as CBS takes you away. We'll stay with you with 15:52 to go in the second half here. Kelin, we're already starting to see a lot of the trends that we've seen all season for opponents of the Purdue Boilermakers in terms of foul trouble, in terms of trying anything to stop Zach Edey, who has 22 points right now. What does Tennessee do? They're down 4. They're now in foul trouble with Adu, with Meshack, as well as Awaka. What do they do? Who do they turn to try to slow down Edey, as well as getting back into this game and trying to regain the lead?
Well, J.P. Estrella is a 6'11" freshman that they have, and he's gotten some minutes today. So they have some depth inside, but it's Dalton Connect. 23 points so far, pending 2 more free throws. He is a shot creator, a shot maker, a tough shot creator and shot maker. That is what it takes to win in March. You need guys that can make tough shots. Unless you have a 7'4" behemoth like Zach Edey, you need playmaking from the outside. Zakai Ziegler needs to make some shots. He's 1 for 6 on the day, 1 for 4 from 3. Those floaters have to fall. And then thirdly, you got to make free throws. Tennessee has not made free throws today. 4 of 7, 57% from the line's not going to cut it. You have got to make your free throws if you're the Tennessee Volunteers if you want to win this game and punch your ticket to Phoenix.
And even for Purdue, 10 of 15 from the line, shooting 67%. Certainly a little bit better than the Volunteers, but not great nonetheless. And so we got a defensive battle right now. I mean, this is a Purdue team, by the way, that when shooting 50% or better from the field is 49-2 since the 2020 and 2021 season. They've shot 46% from the field. If you're Purdue and Matt Painter, how do you try to extend this lead to gain some confidence before you hit the stretch run?
I think you just need to keep putting pressure on the inside. Keep feeding your big fella. 22 points, 12 rebounds. Put Tennessee in foul trouble. That's exactly what they're doing. And then you get open looks for Fletcher Lawyer, who just knocked down that recent 3. That's what is so backbreaking about playing Purdue is you grind, and then you commit a foul that maybe you disagree with. All of a sudden, it's a grind, kick out for an open 3. That's demoralizing to play against.
Yeah. And we'll have to wait and see what Tennessee can do. The question might be, where does Rick Barnes go on his bench if he goes anywhere at the 4 and 5 positions? For now, it's going to be Awaka, Jordan James, and then he switches out Jordan Gainey onto the court for Tennessee, along with Zakai Ziegler and Dalton Connect. Connect with 23 points is standing at the free throw line awaiting 2 free throws.
And Gainey was really good against Creighton. I like him getting some minutes here.
Connect's first free throw drains it and cuts the lead to 3. For Purdue and their all whites, they have their usual lineup of Zach Edey, Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith, Lance Jones, and then Mason Gillis now onto the court for Trey Kaufman-Wren as he usually subs in. Connect's second one leaves it short. Edey looking for the rebound. Eventually it's picked up by Awaka. How about that from Awaka? Outside, Ziegler, left wing 3. Leaves it short. Edey fighting for the rebound, eventually corrals it in.
And that's a good second chance opportunity for Tennessee, but make your free throws.
Down low, up high, it's Braden Smith. Gets a high screener from Edey. And eventually we're going to get a foul called on Tennessee.
And that was a late whistle on Jordan Gainey.
And that's Gainey's first personal foul. It was a screen from Zach Edey at the three-point line that Gainey was trying to fight through. And I mean, already we're seeing Edey draw fouls from all over the place, from right under the cup to 35 feet away. Lawyer now will be the trigger man from the sideline. Looking in, finds Lance Jones. Jones will await his point guard, Braden Smith. Eventually denied by Ziegler. So Jones at the March Madness logo. Working on connect. High screener from Edey. Jones dribbling in all the way to the hoop. Off the window and in. And Purdue extends the lead 46-41 with 15:13 to go. Ziegler on the other end in his all-orange Tennessee uniforms to go with his black shoes, entirely black shoes I should say. Finds Connect at the top of the key. Connect working with all blacks as well. Goes outside to Jordan Gainey. Back to Ziegler. Working on Smith. Ziegler, quick first step into the lane. Might have drawn a foul. He doesn't get a call. Has to step out from the corner, take a three, and nothing but nothing. As Purdue's going to regain possession on a shot clock violation. 46-41 with 14:43 to go for a shot in the final four.
And there was a white jersey that crashed late, took out a Tennessee body, but no call as the shot clock expired just before it.
So Smith will receive the inbound. Smith races down the court and eventually gets his squad set up. The facilitator and playmaker, Braden Smith, getting the Purdue Boilermakers going here. Gets the switch on Dalton Connect. High screen from Edey. Smith working left to right, picks up his dribble, flips it back out to Fletcher Lawyer, back to Jones, and now they go all the way around the key to Gillis and then down to Edey at the left block. Gillis wanted to step into a corner three. Outside, it's Jones eventually for three. And leaves it short, picked up by Edey, who then tries to flip it up and in, misses it. Gillis gets the offensive board. Outside, it's Lawyer now, and he misses the three. And eventually we're going to get a foul called. And if this is on Tobey Owaka, Tennessee might have some issues here. It is on Owaka. That is his fourth personal foul, and we still have 14:03 to go in the second half.
And now it's JP Estrella time. Freshman, Elite Eight, 14 minutes left. Your team's down 5, and you've got to guard the best player in the country. This is a big-time moment for the freshman.
And speaking of Happy Easter, what a way for JP Estrella to get baptized into the NCAA tournament in college basketball here. Lawyer now at the right wing, working on Ziegler. Lawyer dribbling in. Strong take to the bucket, missed the layup, but picked up and in by Zach Edey. Once again, we're going to get a foul called before the putback from Edey. So Lawyer instead will head to the line, and that's going to be 17 fouls, Kelin, on the Tennessee Volunteers with 13:54 to go.
Purdue's going to be playing in the double bonus for the last 10 minutes of this game, it seems like.
Tennessee's going to have to be very careful on defense. Lawyer rims out the first free throw. My goodness, free throw shooting is just killing these two squads right now.
Both teams leaving the door open at the line.
So Purdue with a 46-41 lead here in the Motor City. Lawyer drains the second one, back rim and down. And so Ziegler will dribble it up the other way. Here comes the Purdue crowd. Ziegler working on Smith. Josiah Jordan-James checks to the ball, eventually dumps it off to Connect. Connect now working left to right, all the way to the hoop, off the window, too strong. Corralled in by Edey. Lawyer back the other way. Smith outside Gillis, open three from the right corner. Too strong, and eventually tipped out of bounds off of Edey, so Tennessee will regain possession.
And Tennessee has really struggled to score the basketball. No points in the last 2:22, over their last 5 from the field. But they've played good defense. You have to get a bucket here, have to stay in this game.
The Boilermakers have won their first 3 games of this tournament by a combined 79 points. Tennessee trying to break that trend. Ziegler now into the lane, back outside, Gainey, straight line 3, got it.
And that's a big-time bucket from Jordan Gainey.
What
lines up a triple and knocks it home.
Tough pull-up by Jordan Gainey, the junior, making plays. And then Smith turns it over. Ziegler all the way to the cup and lays it up and in, and Tennessee's cut the lead down to 1. 47-46 now as Camden Heidi is into the game for the Purdue Boilermakers. Smith now standing near the NCAA logo. Goes up top to Edey. Edey a good 33 feet away from the bucket. Finds Lawyer who dribbles in, mid-range J, got it. Nothing but nylon for Fletcher Lawyer. Back the other way, Gainey, ball fake into the lane, off the window, and missed it. Picked up by Lawyer. 3-point lead for Purdue. And just over 12 to go.
That's the effect of Zach Edey, affecting that floater from Gainey.
Smith gets a high screen from Edey, dumps it off back to Edey towards the basket. Edey throws up the right paw with a basket off the window and in. 5-point Purdue advantage here. Ziegler listening in to the Boilermaker crowd. Steps into a deep three. Misses it and picked up by Edey.
I don't love that shot from Ziegler.
Yeah, definitely a lower percentage type of shot as Smith now will get Purdue set. Smith, Braden Smith, dumps it off down low to Zach Edey. The Toronto native gets fouled down low on Josiah Jordan-James. And so Edey will head back to the line, throws his hands in the air, much to the delight of the Purdue faithful as we hit the under 12 timeout. Purdue with a 5-point lead in the Motor City.
And he's just so impossible to guard. For someone as inexperienced as Estrella to come in there, he's, I think, doing fine, but to play without fouling is so difficult against Zach Edey because of his size advantage. JP Estrella is 6'11", and he is completely undersized guarding the 7'4" Zach Edey. How many times in his life do you think he's used to being
Never.
completely overmatched like that? It's a foreign concept to a 6'11" big guy to be that overpowered inside.
Yeah, I mean, and he's had his hands absolutely full. Same with the rest of the Tennessee bigs. And correction, JP Estrella was called for the foul. It wasn't on Jordan-James. So that will be Estrella's first personal. The good news for Rick Barnes is that Jordan-James only has 2 still. Estrella with just 1. And he's been able to get his other bigs like Meshack and Tobey Owaka and Jonas Adu, I should say. All 3 of those guys are getting some decent rest on the bench as well as some time to avoid some foul trouble. So the question for Tennessee is going to have to be down 5. How do you get the production going? The Volunteers have shot the ball very well from behind the arc, 9 of 19, shooting 47% from three-point land, but their field goal percentage is just 37%. You don't see that too often, Kelin, with a field goal percentage being 10% lower than the three-point percentage.
Yeah, Neal, and their three-point shooting has kept them in this game. Dalton Knecht with 24 points has been phenomenal, but Zakai Ziegler, 2 of 10 from the field, 1 of 7 from 3, has been devastating. Josiah Jordan-James hasn't gotten anything going since early in the first quarter. Somebody has to step in and provide an offensive spark other than Knecht, or maybe it's getting Knecht more shots. I'm not sure what it is, but you have to do something to get the ball in the basket. Tennessee is hanging on by a thread right now, it feels like. It's been all Purdue this entire second half, and Tennessee got a 3 and a turnover for a layup. Outside of that, it's been all Boilermakers. Tennessee hanging on by a thread.
And where do they go? Do you think it has to be more three-point shooting from Dalton Knecht, or can they finally spread it out later? In addition to, when do you bring in Jonas Adu and Meshack back into this game? It's now only 11:39 to go for both of those guys.
When you look at it, Adu with 3 fouls, 11:49, Meshack 3 fouls. I think you've got to look at it around the 10-minute mark. You try to get another 100 seconds here, and then around the 10-minute mark, you've got to just say, listen, you got to play without fouling.
And just as you said, Tennessee's going to roll out that same 5 that they just had on the court. Zakai Ziegler, as well as Dalton Knecht, they're playing almost all the minutes of this game right now. Jordan Gainey is in with them, as well as Josiah Jordan-James and JP Estrella. You know, I mentioned the first half how these two teams have had quite a few demons and kind of a March dragon that's hung over the heads of these two programs. For Purdue, they haven't made the Final Four since 1980. Tennessee, meanwhile, under Rick Barnes, have never been to the Elite Eight until this season, and the program has never been to the Final Four. With 11:39 to go, as Zach Edey misses the first free throw, one dragon, I should say, will be slayed today. Who will it be is the question. Edey at the line, a 72% free throw shooter on the season, drains the second. So 52 46 in favor of the Boilermakers right now. Ziegler across the court. Heidi's now guarding Zakai Ziegler. We'll see how that works. Estrella at the top of the key. Outside, Connect at the left wing. Dribbling left to right. Connect steps into a mid-range J. Ooh, rims out, and then eventually tipped off of JP Estrella. It's going to be Purdue basketball.
And that's tough. That was a really good look from Dalton Connect. Just swirled the iron and went out, and then a tough break off the miss. I like the full court pressure here, though.
Yeah, full court press from Tennessee. And eventually Heidi gets it after checking to the ball, crosses the timeline, resets back with Lance Jones. Smith now getting a little bit of a breather for Purdue. Fletcher Lawyer tries checking to the ball at the left wing, unable to. Denied by Ziegler. They eventually go down low to Edie. Gillis now left wing. Waves away Lance Jones. Mason Gillis in the white shoes. Dumps it off to Edie in the all white. Edie down low. A little bit of nice footwork, some fancy footwork to get by Estrella and get the 2-point play.
And Tennessee has no answers inside for Zach Edey. Absolutely none.
Zakai Ziegler dumps it off to Connect the other way. Connect, little spin move. Outside, Jordan James. Hezzy steps in. Connect now wide open for three at the left wing. Rims out again. And Purdue gets a tough rebound from Mason Gillis. 10:30 to go in Detroit. Purdue leads it by 8. Rick Barnes urging his squad to D up here on the defensive side. Lance Jones, a good 50 feet from the bucket, taking it all the way to the hoop, and then eventually has it tipped off the backboard. Here comes Ziegler the other way. Oop to Connect, and he puts down the alley-oop layup to cut it to 6.
Dalton Connect doing an excellent job running the floor there, and a good feed from Zakai Ziegler to get the easy one in transition.
And the pesty Zakai Ziegler working on Lance Jones. Hard screen from Edie. Ziegler went straight down. Gillis now at the top of the key. Outside it's Heidi. Looks down low, finds the Naismith Player of the Year from last year and likely one from this year. Outside, Lawyer, back to Edie. Still working on Estrella. Great defense from Tennessee, and eventually we're going to get a push called on Purdue.
That's going to go against Zach Edey.
It is. And that's going to be Zach Edey's first personal of the day, so no issues really for Matt Painter's big. But Tennessee will regain the possession down 6 with 9:40 to go here. Some great effort by the Volunteers right there.
And that's what you need at this point to stay in this game, is all those loose balls have to be yours. Good work from Estrella to knock that ball away from Edey.
Yeah, great minutes from Estrella. Josiah Jordan James went down on the last play. He's been grabbing his knee. Looks a little gimpy. Something to watch out for. Ziegler gets past half court, working on Heidi. Dumps it off to Jordan James. Connect now, working left to right once again. Outside, Ziegler wanted a 3, steps inside. Nice little Euro step fake, and then finds Gainey for 3. Got it! Jordan Gainey, nothing but net. And he cuts the lead to 3 here in Detroit.
Excellent drive-in kick from Ziegler. Big-time shot from Gainey.
Braden Smith back into the game for the Boilermakers. High screener from Edie. Smith all the way to the basket. Looked off the window too strong and eventually tipped out off of Dalton Connect, so it'll be Purdue basketball. 54-51 with 9:01 to go here. Matt Painter yells out some orders to Lance Jones.
Tennessee has to find a way to squeeze that orange there, pick up that loose ball.
So Jones will inbound. Jordan James is hovering right over him and eventually gets tipped from Gainey. Tennessee regains the ball here. Here comes Connect, coast to coast, off the window and in with the left hand. And we said it was a game of runs. The Volunteers have fought their way all the way back with a 7-0 run over the last minute and a half. And we're going to get a timeout from Braden Smith with 8:45 to go. 1-point Purdue lead.
And Connect got the points there on the fast break. But that is all Zakai Ziegler harassing Braden Smith on the inbound. That's team defense. Nobody left open on the inbound. Purdue is forced to float it up for Braden Smith. And I couldn't tell if that was Ziegler or Gainey. Whoever that was, able to elevate, poke it free. It was Gainey. Gainey, excellent job tracking the basketball, elevates to poke it free, and Connects there to take it coast to coast for the lay-in. Big-time stuff from the Volunteers.
Some absolutely intense possessions right now as Rocky Top is being sung from the Tennessee faithful. The bright orange crowd here is certainly loud, even though they're overmatched with the louder Purdue crowd. in black and gold. But, I mean, what an atmosphere here in the D. I mean, you got two great fan bases cheering on their highly ranked teams for a chance to head to Phoenix to be in the Final Four. And so we'll reset. Again, Purdue, the 1 seed, leads it 54-53 over the 2-seeded Tennessee Volunteers. A couple of big trends to note. Zach Edey with 27 points today, 16 rebounds. I mean, that could have been his final box score, and you would have said he had a hell of a game. But you know what? We still have 8:45 to go. On the other side, Dalton Knecht, 28 points off of 50% shooting in addition to 3 rebounds. And so Knecht's played 28 minutes of this game. Zakai Ziegler has played all 31 minutes. They haven't taken him out.
I don't expect either of those guys to come out down the stretch here. Zakai Ziegler with 7 points, 2 of 10 from the field, 1 of 7 from 3, has got to find a way to get things going down the stretch here. Had a nice kick out to Gainey for his 8th assist, so he's been a positive impact on the floor, but has got to find a way to score the basketball down the stretch here. But fantastic defensive work and 8 assists, been playmaking.
And so in looking at the path to get here to Detroit and to get to the Elite Eight for Tennessee, coming as the 2 seed here in the Midwest region, it started with St. Peter's winning 83-49 in the first round. Then it was Texas winning 62-58 in a tough battle. And then a tough one against Creighton in the Sweet 16 to get here. For Purdue, they have won by a combined 79 points over their first round matchup against Grambling State. Then it was Utah State, in which they put up 106 points. And then it was a 12-point win here in Detroit against Gonzaga. Purdue really hasn't had any issues getting here. Tennessee, meanwhile, they've had to deal with a couple close ones in the last 2 games. Does that play into maybe any of the fatigue or maybe any of the late game experience that these two teams might have?
I think both of these teams have been battle tested enough throughout the season where you're not too concerned about late game execution. Obviously, when you want to go there, Zakai Ziegler, as a junior with a little more experience than Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, much more tournament experience for sure for Zakai Ziegler. That's the main difference, I'd say. But a guy like Lance Jones can be huge in that late game spot as a senior with plenty of experience. Not someone you're worried about making a freshman or sophomore mistake.
So Smith receives the inbounds for Purdue. 8:45 to go. Boilermakers with a 1-point lead. It's the 7th all-time meeting between these two schools. They've split the previous 6. Mason Gillis now at the top of the key. Down low to Edey. Outside, Heidi. Extra pass, Smith in the corner. Braden Smith. Great bit of closeout defense from Tennessee.
Fantastic rotations.
They go down low to Edey, working on Estrella. Great bit of defense from JP Estrella, the freshman, and forces the miss. Eventually picked up by, I believe that was Meshack. They're back into the game. It is Jemai Meshack. And so Gainey now crosses the timeline. Jordan James picks it up at the key, looking for Dalton Knecht. Great bit of denied defense from Lance Jones. The right wing, it's Jordan Gainey. Working on Heidi. Gainey stepping into the free throw line. Jay falls away a little bit and leaves it short, and then eventually it's pinballed out of bounds, and it'll be Purdue basketball. And we mentioned how Zakai Ziegler, who is not in the game right now, had played every single minute previously in this game as we reached the under 8-minute timeout.
And so I think what we're seeing from Rick Barnes there is he knew he was going to get the under 8 in just a minute, extend that rest for Zakai Ziegler by an extra minute or 2. And now hitting the under 8 media timeout gives his point guard another minute or so of rest. We saw that with Edey earlier in the game. I think you could see Adu come back at this point. 3 fouls, under 8 to go now. We just saw Meshack back in. Obviously not as big of a deal for him because he's a guard, so you're not as concerned about that, not defending Edey, but Jonas Adu, I would not be surprised if we see him come in after the under 8 here.
And how about those minutes, though? You know, we mentioned JP Estrella is just a freshman. And, you know, he's only given up 5 inches, which most guys give up more down low to Zach Edey. But how about those minutes from Estrella to slow down Edey just enough to get Tennessee back into this game before the reinforcements come in with Meshack and Adu?
And I think Edey was really taking him to work early. But that last possession especially, J.P. Estrella did a fantastic job preventing Edey from getting deep position and really forced frankly a bad shot from Zach Edey. Really impressed with Estrella there. But it's a team effort. You have to be able to help, and Tennessee's been doing a good job of that. One of the best defensive teams in the country. That's been their calling card under Rick Barnes.
And so it's been a 7-0 run for the Volunteers over the last 2:11 of this game. Purdue on a 3-minute scoring drought. So how do the Boilermakers restart the offense here? Do you again just feed Zach Edey, who has played all but 1 minute of this game? Kelin, what you think? Does it start with Edey again on offense here? I know it's very loud in the arena, but if it's not Edey, let's say, who else do you go to for Purdue if Tennessee continues to play some good ball defense against Edey?
Lance Jones has struggled today, but he's a guy that's come up big in big moments for Purdue this season. Braden Smith has played well, scored 9 points early, hasn't done anything in the second half. Mason Gillis, a big fat 0, really unexpected from Gillis. I just think Purdue's hesitated on a lot of threes. They've gotten the kickouts, and Tennessee's rotations have been unbelievable to close out on these shooters. When they bring the double to Edey, they've been able to close out and recover really, really well to prevent open looks from distance for the most part. And compounding that, Purdue's shot it poorly from 3, 2 of 13 from beyond the arc compared to 10 of 21 for Tennessee. The Boilermakers hanging on to that 1-point lead because of their 1 free throw advantage. They've shot 10 more free throws and their dominance inside.
And so for Purdue under Matt Painter, it's just the second time ever that the Boilermakers will be playing on the same day as the Chicago Cubs. Why does that matter? Matt Painter is a big Chicago Cubs fan. And what happened the last time that the Boilermakers played on the same day as the Chicago Cubs? The Boilermakers beat Tennessee in 2019 in that Sweet 16 overtime classic. Who did the Cubs also play that day? They played the Texas Rangers, who they're playing today as well. So back to action with 7:50 to go. Boilermakers with a 1-point lead. Smith across half court finds Kaufman-Wren, who's into the game. Edey now working on Estrella, getting some extra minutes. Great spin move, and then leaves it up off the window and in with the left hand. Ziegler now back the other way. Here comes the Boilermaker crowd. Up top, it's Jahmai Mashack. Still waiting on Jonas Aidoo to check back in the game. Jordan Gainey getting extra minutes. Mashack finds Connect. The All-American dribbles to the left and then turns it over looking for Mashack. Smith loses it. Ball's pinballing around and eventually ends up in Connect's hands for a wide open 3, and he hits it. Tennessee has tied this game up at 56 apiece with 7 to go.
Dalton Connect was clapping for that ball in the corner. He wanted it. Big time shot from Dalton Connect, the Tennessee superstar.
31 points off of 12 of 23 shooting for Dalton Connect. Smith now the other way, working right to left. Goes down low to Edey. Edey at the left block. Estrella's guarding him. The freshman's done a solid job. Edey falling away with the right hand. Too strong, picked up by Estrella. How about this from J.P. Estrella?
That's excellent defense.
Connect gets a high screen from Estrella. Steps into a mid-range J. Leaves it too strong, picked up by Jones. Braden Smith the other way. The Indiana native playing for his hometown Purdue Boilermakers now at the biggest stage, the Elite Eight. Smith working on Connect. High screen from Lawyer, he drops out. 6:15 to go here in Detroit. Lawyer goes up top to Edey. Edey working on Estrella, has to dump it outside back to Lawyer. Edey again spinning, gets to the left hand and flips it up and in. Purdue takes a 2-point lead now with just under 6 to go. Ziegler in the blood orange jerseys, the all black shoes, working on the left wing. Up top, it's Jahmai Mashack. Jonas Aidoo is getting ready to check back in the game. Dalton Connect now into the mid-range, throws up a lob, and J.P. Estrella throws it down. Tie ball game at 58.
How about that from the freshman, Neal? Big time stuff in a big time moment.
Kelin, does it get any better than this? It's the Elite Eight. 1 game, 5.5 minutes for a shot at heading to Phoenix to the Final Four. Lance Jones now down low to Zach Edey at the left block. What can the All-American do? Edey falling away with the right hand, leaves it short again, and it's tipped out of bounds. What's the call? It's going to be Tennessee basketball. The Purdue fans don't like it. How about that? And Jonas Adu was going to check into the game. He walked back to the bench and now comes back out. So Rick Barnes, a little bit of game management there, trying to give Estrella some extra minutes. For Purdue, it's Kaufman-Wren who comes off the court. Mason Gillis comes on, so a little bit of a 4-out lineup for the Boilermakers.
Yeah, a little more shooting for Purdue now. And I kind of like the move to bring in Awaka. Preserve Adu as much as you can because you know he's going to have to foul.
Yeah, it's Awaka into the game, not Jonas Adu. So Meshack receives it at the point. Some ball handoffs to Dalton Connect eventually. Charity stripe jumper, left it short, picked up by Edey, and then eventually loose ball. Smith looking for it. Who's going to end up with it? Eventually, we get a whistle on the court with 4:53 to go, and we're going to get a foul on Tennessee here. Or excuse me, we're going to get a possession.
I think it's a jump ball, yeah.
Yeah, jump ball, and that's going to be in the favor of Tennessee getting the ball here.
Meshack and Edey both had a chance at it, neither able to grab it, and eventually just a tie up on the floor.
So 4:53 to go. Once again, the 7th all-time meeting between these two squads. The last 3 under Rick Barnes between these two were decided by less than 5 points. Looks like we're in for another one here. Connect on the left wing. High screen from Awaka. Steps into a straight line J. Rims out. And as they fight for a rebound, we're going to get a jump ball again. Man, Kelin, I'm having a hard time seeing the official calls here. We're going to get actually a foul.
That's going to be the foul on Awaka. He's done.
Yeah. We're perched up 100 feet above the floor here in the gondolas in Little Caesars Arena. It's very difficult, really, to see down low. And Tobey Awaka has fouled out of the game as the Purdue fans put their waving hands at him. Tie game at 58 with 4:42 to go in the Motor City here. So J.P. Estrella, the freshman, will check back on for the fouled out Tobey Awaka. And Zach Edey will head to the line for a 1-and-1 here. 4:42 to go. Rick Barnes seeking his first Final Four as the head coach of the Tennessee Volunteers. It would be his second all-time. Previously reached the Final Four with the Texas Longhorns in 2003. Edey's first free throw, drains it. Matt Painter on the other side, Kelin, looking for his first Final Four ever. He's only reached the Elite Eight once with Purdue, in which they lost to Virginia in 2019. It's a 1-point slim advantage for the Purdue Boilermakers right now, 59-58. The All-American center from the line pinballs the ball around the rim, and then eventually it ends up in Josiah Jordan-James's hands.
And whatever team loses this game is going to be frustrated with themselves from the free throw line. Purdue has left 8 points at the stripe. Tennessee only 9 attempts, but has missed 4 of them.
And so we get a timeout from Rick Barnes as Zakai Ziegler just strolled up to his coach and put the hand formation for a T. And so we'll get a timeout on the court with 4:36 to go. The Boilermakers with a 1-point lead. We knew it was going to be back and forth. But, I mean, my goodness, we had quite a few runs in the first half. Those have been matched in the second here. Purdue had a great start early on in this half to kind of pull away a little bit from Tennessee early in this game, or in this half, I should say. Tennessee's fought valiantly to come all the way back. And so, Kelin, the question is, you're down 1. Rick Barnes has done a solid job managing this game to preserve his big men that were in foul trouble. Where do they go more so on the offensive end? It's been Connect over and over with 31 points as they're showing on the scoreboard.
And for good reason. He's knocked down 6 of 10 from deep. He's been the go-to guy all season. Jordan Gainey's come up big with a couple of threes late, but Connect is your guy. I think you want to do your best to get Edey moving out of the paint and just create looks for your shooters.
Yeah, very different late game Tennessee lineup than I think what most Volunteer fans are used to. Jordan Gainey still into the game, whereas Santiago Vescovi, who's been dealing with a flu illness, is still out of the game. So Connect now, back to action. Outside, Josiah Jordan-James steps into a mid-range jumper, leaves it too long, and Gillis jumps up for the board. So Braden Smith will stroll his way past half court. Ziegler is at least going to let him go 50 feet there. Ziegler now steps up at the NCAA logo and then runs over Fletcher Lawyer. No foul call. Braden Smith steps back out, dumps it off to Edie down low. 3 orange jerseys all around Edie, and we're going to get a foul called here. Much to the anger of the Tennessee fans. They can't believe it. It's going to be on Josiah Jordan James. And that'll be Jordan James's 3rd personal foul as we now hit the under 4 timeout with 3:56 to go. Purdue with a 1-point lead at 59-58.
Woo! Neal, this has been a back and forth game. It's not always pretty watching Zach Edey play. There's no way to sugarcoat that. It's a lot of back and forth, kick out, repost, just try to get position. Half the battle for Purdue, half the plan is just he's going to get fouled so many times that it's okay. And so, well, it's not necessarily fun to watch. It's effective. There's a reason they're a 1 seed and they've only lost a handful of times this season because he's such a nightmare to guard and it provides such a high floor for this Purdue team. Now, where they're susceptible is against really good shot making like Tennessee. And on a day like today where Purdue has not shot the ball well from deep, Tennessee has a chance to steal one against the number 1 seed. When Purdue's knocking down threes and getting it going inside with Edey, good luck. UConn might be the only team in the country that can hang with them.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, just as you said, the idea that Purdue would only hit 2 3-pointers and have a 1-point lead right now is just shocking from a team that literally is one of the leaders nationally in 3-point shooting. They shoot as a team 41% from 3. Guys like Mason Gillis, who shoot 48% from 3, yet to make a 3. Same goes for Lance Jones, who's 0 of 3 from 3-point land. And so just an absolute shocker. But how about the star power of both of these two squads? We're going to sound like a broken record talking about Edey and Connect, but that's where the story is. Edey with 32 of his own points. Connect's matched that with 31 points. These two guys both National Player of the Year finalists. They've shown why.
And they do it in very different ways. Obviously, Edey at 7-4, banging inside, drawing fouls, and just dominating with his size. Dalton Connect can score at all 3 levels. A fantastic shooter, 6 of 10 from 3 today. A flamethrower by every definition. The pull-up mid-range, he's comfortable with that. And then getting to the cup, drawing contact as well. Dalton Connect getting it done at all 3 levels today. We've seen him elevate for a couple of alley-oops in transition. I've loved watching him all season long, and it's been a treat to get to watch both of these players today in Detroit.
It absolutely has for the grad transfer in Dalton Connect. I mean, he's really been one of the bright spots of this new NIL era where you see guys transferring colleges and programs all the time. And so for Connect, you know, we saw it in their last game for Tennessee. A lot of transfers in that game against Creighton. We're seeing it a little bit today with Lance Jones also coming from Southern Illinois. I mean, speak on that and how that's changed college basketball very briefly, because I know UConn has built their whole new team or their whole new backcourt from transfers.
Yeah, UConn is a whole nother beast. I mean, they've led by at least 30 points in every single game of this tournament. They went on a 30-0 run against Illinois. Good luck to anyone that faces them. Alabama's going to draw them in the Final Four first round. Good luck against that team. They're a buzzsaw that has not met any team that can match them in this tournament so far.
And for both of these two teams, whoever comes out on top will be lucky enough not to have to play UConn in the Final Four. And either one of these will likely be the favorite against Duke NC State. Edey's first free throw rattles home as he gets the friendly bounce. And so Purdue takes a 2-point lead. Zach Edey will have a second awaiting him from the line. Once again, a 71.4% free throw shooter on the season. And it's been a big area of emphasis for Edey on the offseason, and he drains the second. So Purdue takes a 3-point lead. It's still a 1-possession game. And here comes the crowd as Zach Edey has 34 points for the Boilermakers. Ziegler crosses the timeline now. Outside, it's Connect at the right wing. Connect pirouetting at the free throw line, steps into a jumper and misses it strong, but we're going to get a foul called on Fletcher Lawyer.
And I like the aggressiveness from Dalton Connect. He's got to be attacking, be in attack mode, go get buckets. This is what he was brought in to do, is provide a scoring punch, and he's going to wish it that he had the 3-point play opportunity there, had a good look at the rim.
So Connect now will head to the line. Dalton Connect, a 76.8% free throw shooter, and drains the first. So back to a 2-point game here in Detroit. The orange crowd is just dead silent. Meanwhile, you're hearing a lot of whistles from the Purdue fans. Connect from the line. The leader for the Volunteers swishes home the second. Back to a 1-point game in Detroit. 61-60 with 3:41 to go. They inbound to the Southern Illinois transfer. Lance Jones has it, and he'll stalk his way up the court, working on Jordan Gainey. Eventually finds Braden Smith, dealing with the pesky Zakai Ziegler. Smith now working left to right. Smith all the way, tries getting blocked, and then eventually it's corralled back in by Edey, who then puts it back up and in. Quick 2-point play gives Purdue a 3-point lead with 3:15 to go now. Ziegler outside, Connect, straight line three from the corner. Misses it, picked up by Mason Gillis. Tough rebound by the Purdue guard. Just over 3 minutes left now. Braden Smith dribbles it up. Waves away Lance Jones. He comes back in for a screen. Smith now eventually gets a switch. Dalton Connect works on him. Smith now waving away Lance Jones. Man, he's been directing him like a conductor today. Outside, Jones now open three. Got it! Lance Jones rattles it home. And Purdue takes a 6-point lead with 2.5 to go. Listen to this crowd as Dalton Connect now dealing with Lance Jones all over him. Connect dribbling into the lane and draws the foul from number 55.
And how about that shot from Lance Jones? He's been stone cold all day. Big time bucket there. His first 3-pointer of the game. We touched on it earlier. He's made big shots in big moments. The senior transfer does it again there.
And then he gets called, of course, for the foul on the other end. That's the 5th team foul for Purdue. They're 2 away from putting the Volunteers in the bonus. So it'll be an inbound from the baseline as Zakai Ziegler will be the trigger man. 2:26 to go. Boilermakers lead by 6. Connect steps into a 3 from the left wing. Misses it short, and it's picked up by Fletcher Lawyer.
No Jonas Adu still.
Adu is still out. They're instead Rick Barnes electing to go with JP Estrella. Braden Smith now with his back to the basket, 50 feet away near half court. Gets a high switch. Dalton Connect now on him. Smith into the lane, flips it outside. Lawyer, straight line 3, leaves it too strong. Eventually corralled back in by Braden Smith. A loose ball, and then we get a off-ball foul that's not really called. Fletcher Lawyer went spraying all over the floor there now. Smith into the lane, dumps it off to Edey, and he gets blocked, but we're going to get a foul called on Tennessee. JP Estrella, is going to be called for it. 1:46 to go. Boilermakers lead 66-60 as the 7'4" big will head to the line.
And this is where free throws really count. You can put Tennessee almost away here.
Yeah, the crowd starts quieting down a little bit here. It's been a grinded out game for both of these squads, but it seems like Purdue has just done enough as of recently to take that advantage. No field goals from Tennessee in the last 4 minutes of action here. Edey drains the first. Man, that is huge from the big. 7-point lead for Purdue. 37 points for Zach Edey to go with 16 rebounds and an assist. The 7'4" big man from Toronto, Ontario, in his last year in college basketball swishes home the second. It's an 8-point advantage for Purdue. The black and gold faithful cheering their team on. Ziegler across half court, working on Lance Jones. At the left wing, goes outside to Jemai Meshak. Meshak trying to find Connect. They're playing denied defense on Dalton Connect. Ziegler now in the lane, off the glass and in. And we're going to get a quick timeout from Rick Barnes with 1:28 to go. He's going to try to get his boys in the orange and white set up here.
And so if you're Tennessee, now you're playing the lineup game. We just saw 5 shooters on the floor the last time down for the Volunteers, trying to pull Edey away from the basket. Now you've got to get a big back on the floor to protect the rim against Edey. It's a lot of substitutions now for Rick Barnes in Tennessee. You've got to try your best to get the optimal lineup for offense and defense on the floor each time down. But first and foremost, you need stops. There's 90 seconds left in this game. You need stops.
And then this is where the free throw shooting will become so vital. For Purdue, a 72% free throw shooting team on the season. Tennessee, meanwhile, 75.2%. As you can hear the boiler up chants from the crowd here. So far this game, Kelin, not great free throw shooting. The Volunteers 64% from the line. Purdue, meanwhile, 68%. So this is where that's going to become so big, not to mention the fouls games. And so Rick Barnes has done a solid job managing his bigs that have been in foul trouble. Josiah Jordan-James has 4. Tobe Awaka already fouled out. But now Rick Barnes keeping J.P. Estrella in, as well as Jemai Meshack. And so how do these guys deal with Edey? We'll have to wait and see in the Elite Eight. 1:28 to go to send a team to the Final Four in Phoenix, Arizona.
Good trap in the corner there.
Inbounds, they get a quick trap, and then we're going to get a foul called on Tennessee. Oh boy, Estrella can't believe it. They thought that they might have got Edey for a travel a good 70 feet away from his bucket.
And that's just a tough break for Tennessee. Not a ton of contact there.
It's a killer, and this is where Zach Edey's improvement from the line is just so important for this big man. 71.4% free throw shooter from the line on the season. He's going to need all percentage points here. Edey's first free throw leaves it short off the front rim. It's a 6-point advantage for Purdue, but they can't afford misses like that with 1:25 to go.
And again, look, Gainey in for Estrella now, spacing the floor on the offensive trip for Tennessee.
Purdue is seeking their first Final Four since 1980. Ironically enough, it was also the year that they first played Tennessee ever in men's basketball, as Edey swishes home the second. 7-point lead, 69-62. It's a career-high 39 points for Zach Edey. Meanwhile, Tennessee's got to go quick. Dalton Connect tries to step back, wanted a 3, decides against it, now dribbling into the lane. Connect all the way to the hoop and lays it up and in with 1:10 to go. 5-point lead for the black and gold Purdue Boilermakers. Smith now being hounded by Jordan Gainey. Just past half court, finds Fletcher Lawyer. Smith's going to be keen on melting down this clock. 55 seconds and counting on the game clock. 17 seconds on the shot clock. Smith, high screener from Edey. Up top, it's Gillis. Left wing now, Fletcher Lawyer.
And there's
down
no big.
low. Zach Edey working on Meshack. He had the ball. What's the call? We're going to get a foul. And Zach Edey will be headed back to the charity stripe here.
No big on the floor for Tennessee. They weren't able to sub a big man back on after that offensive possession. And that's barbecue chicken alert, as Shaquille O'Neal might say, with Jemai Meshack on Zach Edey.
Well, the barbecue chicken alert will instead change into a free throw line alert here. 42.1 seconds left. Edey misses the first free throw. And the Tennessee fans certainly trying to get loud. The Volunteers certainly trying to prolong the delay between this first and second free throw to get in Edey's head. Edey, a quick dribble at the line. Steps up and airballs the second.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, nothing but nothing from Zach Edey at the line. It's a 5-point Purdue lead, but Tennessee maybe with some new life.
Wow.
And it wasn't even close. There was a few inches between the bucket and the ball there.
Need a bucket here for Tennessee.
Connect, a foot inside half court. Working on Edey. Into the lane. Connect gets rejected from Zach Edey. And he throws down his fist in exclamation. Purdue 30 seconds away from the Final Four. Smith across half court. They go to Gillis now. Eventually Lawyer ends up with it, and he gets fouled by the Tennessee Volunteers. 21.9 seconds to go. And Fletcher Lawyer will head to the line. Purdue's best free throw shooter. It was on Jemai Meshack, the foul for Tennessee. Kelin, any chance that Tennessee had to get back into this game with that layup from Connect just got absolutely erased from Zach Edey.
And that's why he's so good. Not only having almost 40 points, but defensively, that presence unmatched.
Lawyer knocks home the first free throw. an 86% free throw shooter on the season, takes a big sigh of relief after draining the first. The 6'4" sophomore hits them both. 71-64 lead for Purdue. Connect now the other way. Dribbling all the way up, quick layup. They go for the quick two and got it. And Rick Barnes takes a quick timeout. 71-66 in favor of Purdue here with 15.6 seconds to go.
At this point, you need a steal. You need a steal off the inbound. There's no way around it.
And that was Dalton Connect's 36th and 37th points of the game. I mean, that
31 shots.
He's given it his absolute all today. But Zach Edey's 39 are the difference for Purdue right now to give them this 5-point lead. Can you believe this? What a game.
This has been a fantastic back and forth game. But Zach Edey, the National Player of the Year, I mean, Dalton Connect got a lot of buzz for the award down the stretch, but it's going to be Zach Edey because his impact is unmatched on both ends of the floor. What he does, the way he impacts the game, is unlike any other player in the country. 39 points, 16 rebounds, a block as well in 39 minutes. It's special.
And listen to these fans. You can tell what it means to them. It's been 44 years, folks, since Purdue has broken the Final Four curse. And they're trying to get back to it. They've only been to the Elite Eight even once since then, or excuse me, twice since then, in 2000 as well as 2019 for Purdue. And so can they finally get it done? Tennessee was hoping to head to their first Final Four. 15.6 seconds, excuse me, is what separates these two squads from heading to Phoenix, Arizona.
And the cheat code off the inbound here is you can just throw it up for Zach Edey too at 7'4". Just throw it up. No one else can get up with him.
And how about Zach Edey's ability to be in these late game situations now that he's a solid free throw shooter? Certainly something to talk about. So a couple passes along the baseline here for Purdue. Eventually ends up in Lawyer's hands, and they do exactly that. They throw it up to Edey, who then gets fouled by J.P. Estrella. Keep in mind, Zach Edey's last free throw was an air ball. How does he respond to that? We'll see. 14.8 seconds left.
These free throws will be Zach Edey's 21st and 22nd free throws attempted. 13 of his 39 points coming at the line. Living at the free throw line is an understatement.
So as Edey steps up to the charity stripe, all four of his teammates on the court met with Matt Painter briefly. Edey gets the first free throw. How about that from the big man? Follows up an air ball free throw by just draining it. 6-point Purdue lead, 72-66. Edey's second leaves it short, so Tennessee's got to move quickly here. Connect, working left to right, comes all the way down the court. Zakai Ziegler steps into a three, and Tennessee needed it. They missed it short, though. Off the short iron, and Lawyer rebounds it. That's going to do it. The Purdue Boilermakers are headed back to the Final Four for the first time since 1980. 44 years later, the black and gold, the Purdue Boilermakers are going to the national semifinals as Zakai Ziegler just threw the basketball up in frustration to the 10th row of Little Caesars Arena here. What a game. And Zach Edey with a statement, 40 points to send the one-seeded Purdue Boilermakers out of the Midwest region for a trip to Phoenix, Arizona.
And Purdue has finally broken the curse. Finally getting back to the Final Four. This was the year to do it. And there's been a lot of parallels drawn between the Virginia team that lost to UMBC and then won it the next season to this Purdue team, lost to a 16 seed last year, now going to the Final Four. But you have to feel for this Tennessee squad. We just saw Dalton Connect standing, slamming his hands against the floor in frustration.
Listen to these fans. Listen to what it means to them. Purdue has finally slayed the demon of March that has cursed this team over the last 5-6 years under Matt Painter. Edey, just in so much excitement, was just bouncing up and down with one of his graduate managers. And Fletcher Lawyer made sure to make it clear to the fans they still have two more games to win a national championship for the Purdue Boilermakers, a team that has had so many doubters. One of the biggest redemption stories since the all-time redemption story for the Virginia Cavaliers, just the second one seed ever to lose to a 16 seed. And Purdue's followed it up with a Final Four trip, and Matt Painter eventually cutting off the nets here in Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan. I mean, Kelin, we couldn't have asked for really a better game, and we want to thank you all for listening to this broadcast, this special broadcast from WCBN Sports. We've been so privileged and so grateful to get to call this game here for the NCAA tournament. I mean, what are your biggest takeaways? First of all, start it from the Tennessee side before we get into the Purdue analysis here.
For Tennessee, I think the big takeaway is outside of Dalton Connect, they really struggled to get anything going. And I think a big credit to that is to Zach Edey, because you can't do anything in the paint. It's all shots from the perimeter. You have to take floaters. You can't get a layup against Purdue when Zach Edey's on the floor and in the paint. And that was obviously really tough for Tennessee. They shot it over 40% from three as a team. Dalton Connect finished with 37 in a Herculean effort, but ultimately not enough. Zakai Ziegler, 9. Josiah Jordan James had 8 early ones. Couldn't get past that. Jonas Adu did not play the entire second half.
How about
I don't know if there was an injury that we were unaware of or if that was a coaching decision, but picked up 3 fouls, 0 of 4 from the field, 0 points from Adu.
As well as being -10, his plus-minus. So Tennessee was at a deficit of 10 points when Adu was on the court for the 10 minutes that he was on. But, I mean, what a surprise for Tennessee, and they dealt with all the foul troubles. Did you like how Rick Barnes dealt with that by bringing in the freshman J.P. Estrella to get a lot of extended minutes?
I think he was doing what he could. We haven't seen anything like Zach Edey at the college level since like Ralph Sampson. I mean, that to be that big and that good is unbelievable. And Purdue finally has the guards to get the ball to him. And you look at the Purdue side, they did not shoot the ball well from three at all today. But living at the free throw line, which they have done all season, it's not pretty, it's not fun to watch, but it's effective when you have the personnel that they do. And the Boilermakers ultimately got it done. 33 free throw attempts, 22 of them for Zach Edey.
Yeah, I mean, how about that, man? And Kelin, we talked about it all throughout the broadcast. On a day in which Purdue shot the ball 20% from the field, or 20% from three, 3 of 15 from downtown. They still beat the 2-seeded Tennessee Volunteers that have been ranked in the top 10 all throughout the end of the season.
2 very good teams, fantastic seasons for both of these, but Purdue showing they're a cut above on that one line for a reason. Have some more of the experience they didn't have last year, and it really shone through today. Fantastic season for Rick Barnes in Tennessee, but the Boilermakers punched their ticket to Phoenix. It's black and gold confetti. Congratulations to Purdue representing the Big Ten in the Final Four. Purdue looking to be the first Big Ten team since Michigan State over 20 years ago to bring home a national title for the conference in college basketball on the men's side. And Purdue has been one of the best teams in the conference since then, so we'll see. I think myself and many others included are chomping at the bit for a UConn and Purdue national championship game. Donovan Clingan at 7'2", has the size to match up against Edey inside. Yeah. Those guards of UConn, I think that has the makings to be a potentially fantastic game. But Duke at NC State later today will stand between Purdue and the national championship game. And Alabama, who can light up the scoreboard unlike any other team in the country, they're going to stand in between UConn and the national final.
And, Purdue will certainly be the heavy favorite over the winner of Duke and NC State, just like UConn certainly is the heavy favorite over Alabama. And I don't even want to think about how excited I would be to watch that national championship game if it were to be those two teams. But let's, again, be clear and take a step back. You never know. It's March Madness. Anything can happen, even this late in the tournament. And so they still have another big game to play in the Final Four. And for Purdue, it'll be their first one, their first appearance in the Final Four in 44 years. And so you got to wonder, how do they show up? How do they deal with that pressure? None of the Purdue faithful here have left Little Caesars Arena. I mean, there are fans in black and gold all over Detroit and all over the arena still. And so let me ask you one last question, Kelin. Give me, obviously the player of the game is Zach Edey, and obviously he's going to be the National Player of the Year as he's hugging his mom, who is just showing a lot of raw emotions right now. But who is your unheralded player of the game outside of Edey for Purdue?
Outside of Edey for Purdue, Fletcher Loyer was second on the team in scoring with 14 points. He really came alive late and hit some big shots. But I'm going to give it to Braden Smith. 9 points, didn't score in the second half, but 7 assists, 7 rebounds, held his own, did a fantastic job defensively against Zakai Ziegler. And most importantly, you look, only 3 turnovers. Did not lose Purdue the game against Zakai Ziegler with on-ball pressure. That was Purdue's potential big Achilles heel. Braden Smith rose to the occasion, held onto the basketball in the most important moments, and preserved the lead late for Purdue. Played his point guard role very well.
I would certainly agree with that. I think Braden Smith, I mentioned now last game, this guy was just unbelievable, putting up 14 points, 15 assists, and 8 rebounds. I mean, you just don't see a point guard fill up the stat sheet like that much in college basketball. But for Purdue now, this will be their 10th straight win this season. They're 10-0 against nationally ranked teams. The Boilermakers are the second team in the last 15 years to play at least 9 games and be undefeated against nationally ranked teams. The only other team ever in college basketball was the 2012 Kentucky Wildcats, who also went 10-0. Another quick stat to mention before we let you go: Purdue is now 19-5 against nationally ranked teams since the start of the 21-22 season. It's the best in America, and it's not even close. Arizona's second at 14-7. It hasn't gotten much better, despite all the March issues that this Purdue program's had. They have been dominant against some of the very, very best teams. Kelin, I'll leave you one last quick thought here for the Duke-NC State game as well as the Final Four as a whole. What's your biggest storyline to watch out for?
Well, going into the Final Four, I think the biggest storyline is Purdue and the redemption arc. The parallels to the Virginia team of 2019. Yeah, that Virginia, they don't play similarly at all, similar styles of basketball, but the storyline of losing as a 1 seed to a 16 and then the next year making it all the way back now to the Final Four, I think that is clearly the storyline going into the Final Four. Obviously, UConn looking to repeat's a big storyline. NC State, if they're able to overcome Duke today, is a huge Cinderella story. But Purdue on the potentially worst to first arc, that's really something. And just when you look at the woes this program as a whole has had in March, first Final Four since 1940, 25 Big Ten titles, but only haven't been to the Final Four since 1980. That's the storyline.
It certainly is. And yeah, I mean, you put it pretty good. I wouldn't say there'd be too much else to add, but UConn, of course, looking to repeat and become the first national champions to do so since the Florida Gators in 2007. They become the 6th program ever to do that. So certainly something to watch out. A high-flying Alabama team that plays very quick. That'll be a fun one. And then on this side, Purdue getting ready to play the winner of Duke-NC State, which will be starting in about 25 minutes. But the storyline is Zach Edey and the Purdue Boilermakers heading to their first Final Four in 44 years. They have the ladder set up from the National Midwest Regional Final here. We'll see who steps up first, but first it'll be picture time for Purdue, and Matt Painter certainly will be holding on to these basketball nets for a very long time. Purdue wins it with a score of 72-66 over the 2-seeded Tennessee Volunteers, and we want to thank you all so much for listening to the WCBN special broadcast of the Elite Eight, and again for supporting the Michigan Student Radio. As always, my name is Neal Sinha. Joined alongside me is Kelin Flynn. Thank you and good night.